Oh, boy, does it feel good to be father once again. That's right, the proverbial father of India. The Aussies have done it. They've won the Border-Gavaskar Trophy, the first time in over a decade, Shauno. It's been a long time since having the Border-Gavaskar Trophy in our hands. We now hold a lot of two-way test trophies, as well as the World Test Championship, as well as the World Cup. So Aussie cricket's in a good place. We will talk all things Boxing Day Test and New Year's Test. Was one apiece with the draw last time we spoke. We're now 3-1 and back in the winner's circle. The NFL, the playoffs are set. A bit of conversation around next week, the MVP, Rookie of the Year, etc.
Awards.
It's after Christmas, so
After New Year's.
I can start talking seriously about the NBA, put a line through a few teams, a few trade rumours. Jimmy Butler definitely out the door from Miami. Mm-hmm. We'll do a final round with UFC 311. It is a couple of weeks away, but we'll start looking at that. A few tongue twisters there on the main card, that's for sure. But one of the deeper cards getting around. Looking forward to that. And wrapping up what's been going over in the EPL in the soccer. This is On The Esky, Aussie Sports Podcast. We like our Aussie sport. We like our US sport. We like to have a bit of a laugh and a dribble. On YouTube, you can skip to the sports that you like by clicking down below. Also, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't found us before. We also do have some Instagram, Facebook, X, etc., etc. The man on my left is Shauno. He's happy because his Denver Broncos smashed the Kansas City Chiefs 2s today.
Finally in the playoffs.
To clinch... Sweet
It's been almost 10 years, 9 years.
Yeah, so a long time since Australia's beaten India in Test cricket. Long time for the Broncos. Happy Shauno, I'd imagine.
Yes, very, very happy. So I guess from my shout out beer in the new year is going to Alexander Usyk, who retains his belts. He fought Tyson Fury just before Christmas. It was a pretty competitive fight. I did have it going Usyk's way. I thought he did more damage and was more consistent, and I think most people watching that fight scored it that way. Tyson, of course, thought it went the other direction. But, big props. He's beaten the who's who of this generation of heavyweight talent. He's etching his legacy of, especially for this era, is probably the best. And then where does he rank all time is now in that conversation. He did face off with Daniel, how do you say his last name? Dubois,
I think.
In the ring post, but he's also booked currently to fight Joseph Parker in the end of February. So I think all props. He's going to enjoy a nice break and a nice rest from there. But yeah, he's defeated the who's who in that division and retains 3 of the 4 belts, I think, with Daniel having the other one. So a unification potentially coming in the not too.
What's next for him? Because that's twice against Fury, twice against Anthony Joshua before.
And also beat Daniel.
Triple D in there.
Yeah. So I think by all accounts it's going to be Daniel next to unify, to be the unified champion again. Because that first fight was pretty good, pretty competitive, but it also was a couple of years ago, so Daniel was pretty young as well. And by all accounts, Eddie Hearn's been saying that Fury will fight Joshua for a big English, heavyweight bout. So he actually supposedly got had to fight off 4 muggers in a Rolex store yesterday. So
all 4 of them?
yeah, by all accounts, he's all right. He ended up in hospital, but he had to fight them all off. He's a big fella, old Eddie, as well. So I hope he's doing all right.
Picked the wrong store there, I guess.
Yes.
He's had 3 wins, Triple D, that is, since the loss to Usyk. So his record's 22-2, including just beating Anthony Joshua a couple months ago. So, yeah, it's probably him, you'd think.
Yes.
Well, enjoy your beer there, Alexander. He's also 37, so starting to get a little bit long in the tooth himself and undefeated. We would probably want to have all the belts and start talking about legacy. Well, you can already start talking about legacy, but even talk about it more if he unifies.
He's, I guess, technically still the unified linear champion as well because he didn't get beaten to lose that one belt, and Fury had had his belt, and I guess they were he was also the linear champion because he'd beaten Klitschko all back in the day. So, to beat Fury and has all that. So he still has that mystique as being the linear heavyweight champion, and to get his belt back from Daniel again, he would then, again cement his place, which could be a fitting time to retire, actually, as you say, with his age getting up there. So, it'll be interesting to see what the next 12 months entails. So, probably middle of next year, that fight potential. But if they want to do it in Abu Dhabi again, maybe it's more towards the end
of this year, maybe.
Yeah.
Watch this space in heavyweight boxing. A bit of
some other heavyweights.
Yeah, bro. Going from heavyweight boxing to heavyweight darts. Luke Littler, 17 years of age. Wouldn't mind seeing the birth certificate.
Has he turned 18 yet?
I think he's still 17, I'm pretty sure. I'll have a look in just a second. He looks like he's 17 with a mortgage and 3 kids. That's for sure. But he is the youngest ever champion of the world darts for 24-25. I think that was just happened on the weekend.
So yesterday, potentially, he won that.
So very recent. I'll give you an age with Luke Littler here. And a couple of weeks ago now, fellow Aussie, Damon Heta, I think is his name.
He's got 2 weeks in between 18.
So the Aussie, Damon, he got a 9-dart finish, which is very rare, even in the world of professional darts. Yep. We're just watching before, going down from 501, hit the 2 triple 20s, and then got the 141 to finish it off. He did actually end up losing that match, but I think he pocketed himself 20 grand or something for the 9-darter. Luke Littler, according to his Wikipedia, Luke the Nuke, 21st of January 2007, he will turn 18 in a few weeks' time. If I had facial hair like that when I was 17, I would have been very happy. He's got a nice full beard there, that's for sure. Luke Littler from Warrington. Home of the Warrington Wolves for any Super League fans out there.
Well, Peppy?
Yeah, we're going to go to Virat Kohli. There's a bit of chat here on the pre-show. Do we go to Mo Siraj or do we go to Virat Kohli? We're going to go to Kohli.
Yeah, more antics than cricket.
Yeah, he didn't have the best series. He did have that one unbeaten 100, so credit there. Has always made tons on his trips to Australia, which is very good in terms of his legacy. But he was really getting under the skin, I think, of a lot of Australian cricket fans. I think the bumping incident on Boxing Day, where he's definitely changed his line. And
very unnecessary.
Dropped the shoulder into a 19-year-old.
No, it was an optical illusion, bro.
Kid. And then had some words exchanged, and that's been played in the Australian media hundreds of times since. Consis is just doing his gloves, walking in a straight line. Kohli changes his line, bumps into him. Yeah. A bit of sandpaper chat. I think, you can sort of joke around there. That's not the worst. The overhyped celebrations, I think sometimes for me are a bit on the nose. So we're just going mop for Virat.
Mop behaviour.
Yeah, and Mo Siraj can have the little sham wow to go with it.
Yep.
Was really becoming public enemy number 1, I think, for the Australian public in this Border-Gavaskar series. That's for sure.
And both those guys, thankfully for Australia, played pretty average throughout the series. So, quite happy for that.
It did lead us into a bit of discussion. There's a lot of talk about Steve Smith getting out on 9,999 runs over the weekend. Smudger is 1 run away. It's probably a shoe-in that he makes his 10,000th run in the Sri Lanka tour.
Yep.
Is Virat going to get there? So Virat's on 9,230.
Yep, correct.
So he needs 770.
230. Yep.
Needs 770. India doesn't play a test match now until England. They play 5 in the middle of the year. You probably don't see him scoring 770 in one 5-match series.
Not with his current form.
And then we couldn't really see where they'll be in our summer next year. Obviously, England coming here for the Ashes. So he
assume they'll be playing something in that period.
Yeah, it's just maybe not announced just yet, or it wasn't on the website that we're on. But definitely has the 5-test series in the middle of the year. Old Virat, you'd maybe back him to make 700 runs in a series. Current Virat, probably not.
Yep.
So he's going to have to play for at least another 12 months, you would say.
Yep.
Just based on how much cricket they're playing in the next 12 months. And needs to be scoring at a reasonable sort of tick, and would need to maybe go, if he's going at his current sort of rate, where he averaged 23 this series.
Yeah, we've got
for another
200 over the
18
series.
months to 2 years.
Yep.
Bloke's 36. I can get you a birthday here.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, as the time ticks on, he's not getting any younger. So
Yeah, just turned 36 November last year.
Yep. So yeah, if he'll be 37 by the time if they play another series next year, and we know the amount of young fellas they've got coming through, the fact they've kind of force retired Ashwin in their series, and it looks like
Sharma's not far off.
Rohit Sharma's probably in very, very close to that as well after his very poor series, and we'll talk about his opting out in a little while, but yeah, it looks like he'll be forced from retirement. And then we looked at the age of the squad. It's just him and Dadu Jadeja that are now 36 as the oldest in the squad, with the squad probably being mostly under 30 besides that. So, yeah, there'll be a question about is anyone young and hungry enough to steal Kohli's spot, or is Kohli being Kohli going to hold it down for the next 2 years potentially and then maybe have a chance at that 10,000? Or is, he's wanted to focus more on cricket, less captaincy, and if the team becomes more Bumrah's team, does that kind of have that same Cummins, Steve Smith and Bumrah Kohli so concept? Does he need to be involved a bit more than maybe he'd like to be? Because I think some of the media interactions while he was down here, I think he's kind of over the spotlight as well a little bit too. So there's a question of how long he wants to play as well. So yeah, we're just doing quick math on his averages at the moment, how much Test cricket they're playing and his age. It's like it's going to be really close, or he might not get there.
And just from the sort of human element, you were saying like he's probably getting over the media and the spotlight a little bit, and definitely saw that, with birth of children as well, just really just trying to remove himself. And that's where we do have
didn't he disappear through a big part of last year, and it was really to do with the birth of his child. He just didn't communicate it because they didn't want thousands of Indian media all over.
And I think we have to show some sort of empathy in that, we know what our cricketers go through and how the Australian public can be, and then you're timesing that by a factor of 20 or 25 with the
a lot of people know about the Australian cricket team,
in India.
But who would be the biggest star in Australia?
Just in terms of sport or in life?
In the biggest. Because that is Kohli in India, is what I'm saying. There isn't really a bigger superstar than Kohli.
Yeah,
So, I'm not sure what our equivalent it is.
Well, I think we have one.
Because we got a lot, Hughes maybe getting a bit old. It might have been Hugh Jackman.
Maybe 10 years ago, Hugh Jackman, or like a Barbie, like Margot Robbie. I actually don't think we have a sporting equivalent of
but someone that Kohli. Is, when you think India, you think the biggest stars, it's Kohli. Like he's transcended cricket over there and is that guy. And then you've got the billions of people that want to know your every single move. So
I'm just opening.
It's a bit different.
I'm just opening up his Instagram. 270 million followers on Virat's Instagram.
Right.
So to answer your question, I don't think we have an equivalent as Australians in that realm at all. I'm fairly sure that's a fuckload more than LeBron James has.
Yes.
Going back to it, I think you're right. I think he's going to be pushing it. I think he's probably deserves to make 10,000 runs, but his form in England's going to probably be the key there.
To give you kind of a equivalence, Chris Hemsworth has probably got the most followers in Instagram, but that's only 58.8 million.
Only.
And of course he probably applies his talents more in the US than he would here. There's two.
Where's he rank in the world? Like just go most
in the world?
Most Instagram followers in the world. In terms of the 10,000,
number 2 on the India list was at 90 mil, so that kind of gives you
he's way ahead.
Yeah.
So getting that
Cristiano, I think, has got the most with 600.
Yep.
So that's pretty
crazy.
good. Top 5. Selena Gomez, B, Taylor.
So they're all pop stars.
They're all pop stars. Yeah.
And Ronaldo.
Ronaldo, actually, that's an old number. He's almost at a bill. He's at 985 mil.
Wild. Anyways, we didn't set out to talk about Instagram followers.
No, but we're just trying to give the magnitude of.
Yeah, that's right. And the fact that there's no real Aussie comparison is probably fair.
Yes.
I don't think he's top 10.
That's Tig. That's Instagram. I was just saying if they had a better. Here we go.
Have you got sports? Is that all sports stars?
Messi. This is just top. So I'm just seeing if I can find. He is 16th in the
total.
world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you don't include Instagram having the most, he's 15th in the world.
Yeah, he's on like similar sort of level as Nike.
Yep. Yeah. Neymar's behind him. There isn't Nike. Besides Messi and Ronaldo, I don't think there's another sports star in that.
The third for sports stars.
Yeah. Again, wild.
Yeah, it's a lot of people.
Yes.
Going back to 10,000, you're thinking probably not. I'm thinking he will get there.
I'm going to lean in.
Hard to see it happening in the next 12 months.
Yeah, I don't think it's 6 12 months. It's probably going to be the back end of next year. And does he last that long?
We'll see.
Yeah.
You did have a good point where the Indians selectors and
way more cutthroat than we are.
Yeah, they tend to be like, all right, well, you're not performing. We don't really care if you're the captain.
We don't care if you've taken the most wickets for our.
Yeah,
it's like we've got to turn over the young fellas.
We've seen that with Ashwin and Sharma in recent memory.
Yep.
Let's talk about specifically the Border-Gavaskar Trophy. Yeah, just had to reiterate from the top of the show, Australia has claimed the Border-Gavaskar Trophy Monday night down here, so about 24 hours to let it sink in. We will go back to the fourth test in Melbourne. The last time we potted was before the Christmas break. Things were tied up at 1 apiece with the drawn rain-affected Gabba test in there. Probably the big talking point from Boxing Day itself was a young kid called Sam Constas. No one had really sort of taken it to Bumrah. Khawaja had sort of spoken about, I was Bumrah's bunny in this series. I think he got him 6 times. We, at times in Perth, looked, I thought, afraid of facing this bloke who's essentially the best bowler in the world.
Number one.
Hands down, I would say. And I think we were talking about it just before Boxing Day. Will go down as if not already, he's going to be the best Indian quick of all time. And then
it's interesting on some of the commentary they were having the same conversations we were during the 5th test, and some of the Indian blokes were talking about longevity as well. And I was just like, oh no, they're gonna fucking history will probably get to him in a bad way. But for those that watched him play compared to some of the other Indian quicks, he was the best talent wise, the best. Yes, his numbers might be down because he started his career later than they did.
Yeah, and had to wait, I think, to break into the side and get regular reps. But no one...
We could have the same conversation about bowling as well. So
for sure. And we will in a second. But, for Bumrah, I don't remember a bowler coming down here and just having their way like he did in my lifetime watching cricket.
Yeah,
we're not old enough to remember the West Indian quicks of the 1980s.
No, he just looked like another Australian quick, really. Like he just loved our conditions.
Yeah. Yes and no. Like he looked like one at the top of their game, but with his weird action, that hyperextending elbow.
Oh, I meant outside of that. Sorry. I guess his form doesn't look like those, but I meant
but his numbers.
The way that he was bowling fast, like using the pitch, the pace, the seam, the swing, the bounce, the whole lot of it. He looked like an Australian seamer is what I meant.
Yeah, he had a lot of our top order on toast. 19-year-old kid, born in 2005, comes out, makes his test debut. We've already seen bits and pieces of what he can do. We've spoken about him over the last few months on the pod. Made back-to-back hundreds for New South Wales in their opening Shield game. Youngest Australian cricketer to do that since a bloke called Ricky Ponting.
Hit 100 against India,
India A at Manica Oval, saw bits and pieces in the Big Bash. Obviously, is a young cricketer, plays all the white ball shots. I think I texted you the first time that he was trying those ramps and those reverse ramps. I think I said, "Put it away, son." Something along those lines.
We don't need that. A
couple of overs later,
he's already hit 2 more, and one of them's gone for 6. So, which I think was the first 6 Bumrah had in like 4 years.
Yeah,
off his
crazy.
Bowling. And we got a few more off him outside of that, but it's still it really took it to them, and I think it really played massively into this test match because it ended up being a longer test match compared to some of the others.
We got a good start.
Yeah, we got a good start. That was the point.
It was the first and only time in this series that we had a really good opening partnership start.
Yeah, Marnus came in after 20 overs and was just like, I actually can get into the game.
Yeah, not coming in at 1 for 10.
Exactly. And as the ball's hooping around everywhere. He could come and play his natural game, and nearly everyone in the top order scored 50 plus. Outside, Marsh and Head, sad face. But
we'll get to the bison in a second.
Yeah, but I think the energy and it kind of enthused them. Coming off, I guess, the Gabba test where probably Australia looked in control.
Yeah,
and then
the rain fucked us there. I'm pretty sure.
And rain, yes, we lost. But losing because of the rain and not getting a result because of the rain is probably. Probably a bit of a downer, but yeah, to see Constance come out, fire the crowd up, launching Brumray all over the place and being very aggressive and, hitting a quick fire 60 off 65, I think really energised the whole squad.
Yep.
Like you said, gave us a good start. He could play his natural game, didn't have to turn over the strike or anything like that. He could just let Constance do his work and do what he needed to do, and that, I think, really built off for the next two. The cars come in to add a big score.
And for the first and only time in the series, Jasper actually had to go back to the drawing board. He was changing up his lengths. He just, he had to change and adjust to someone actually taking him on, which was really the first and only time that it happened for extended periods.
Yeah, and got
hit him out of the attack, really.
Exactly, yeah, got the hardness out of the ball, and then they could really get into an innings and not get just run through. So, yeah, I think it was very impressive.
We spoke earlier about the bump with Cole. We probably don't need to go back into it, but that did happen in that first session as well. And then Constance getting out just after lunch to Jadeja, sort of just played around. It was pretty plumb.
It was a great ball from Jadeja.
Yeah,
so
and
good turn.
And a good 60 to start off his test career. It mentioned Marnus and Usman coming out, both making half centuries, but it was all about Steve Smith the rest of the afternoon. It would be early day 2 that he would bring up his 100. Went on to make 140 off 197. That's his 34th 100 in tests, so equals the likes of Yunus Khan, Sunil Gavaskar, Brian Lara, Mahala Jayawardena, and he's 2 behind Joe Root in the current sort of Fab 4. Wow. So that's going to be interesting how that plays out. He's back, baby. Remember back after Perth and people were like, I don't know, Smudge needs to be in this team.
Need some runs.
He is still very, very good at cricket, and that was his second ton in this series.
Yeah, I think this game kind of really showed where we'd struggled in years past, with Warner maybe having not the form as well, and of course Marnus then of course struggling, that they get in and it kind of flows down in the game, and that's why
Travis had to pull us out of a lot of shit.
Yeah, and that's why we probably had a bunch of 3-day tests as well, as they're getting through the guys a bit too quickly, but be able to cement that start and then get into the game, I think really helps those two specifically, and that's why they've been so dominant. So yeah, if they could do that more, especially coming into the Ashes at the end of the year, that good starts lead to good things for Marnus and Smithy.
100%. Shout out to Paddy Cummins, chipped in with 49 in this one, was been good with the bat throughout the series, just supporting Smudger there. We end up making 474.
There's a lot of talk about Cummins as well with once he gets through his bowling work, he's actually really pushing to bat more as well. So practicing a lot more batting, like trying to become a genuine all-rounder, which is wild. But
you'd already call him a bowling all-rounder, but he may get to the point where he could play as a genuine all-rounder.
Exactly. And I think it's kind of, you see where cricket is, and you see how the Indian squad's kind of put together. You got to bat deep. Yeah. Because, if you lose a lot of wickets quick because they're trying to make runs, and then, you need guys at the bottom end to be able to come back in and at least score, add an extra 100, 200 just to make sure that you've got a tidy score you can face off. I
think the ideal test side these days, your 8 has to be able to bat, and your 9 probably needs to not be a schmuck as well.
Yeah, average about 30 if you can.
That'd be good at 9. Definitely at 8. So India go out there, they make 369. Jaiswal was cruising. He was on 82, gets barbecued.
By
Kohli.
He's interesting. I think I said it to you guys that he either gets out early or scores tons. Like he doesn't have a lot of...
in this series, that is true. I was looking back through his 2024. He actually had a lot of starts in the 2024. But, in this series, it seemed like it was... You get him early or he's making 80 plus. It was really, a mix-up away from another ton there. shout out to young Nitish Kumar Reddy. I think he's only 23 years of age. Actually, a bit of a thorn in our sides with the bat.
We talked about it. Average 40. So
like 40, 40s in a row or something, and then comes out and makes a ton there. Day 2, Boxing Day, or might have been day 3 by then. Nice scenes with his old man tearing up in the crowd. He made 114 and a pretty good partnership there with Washington Sundar. India gets scheduled for 369. There was a little bit of sort of, I wouldn't say panic, but maybe concern with our second innings. 234 we made. Marnus got out for 70. Cummins again chipping in with the bat. I tell you what, that 61-run partnership for the 10th wicket between Lyon and Boland, obviously it didn't matter in the
hindsight.
In hindsight. I think
it felt like they batted a lot, considering at that point they had a 300-run lead at the end with about an hour to go on the 4th day, and they batted all that hour, and then they came back and batted in the morning as well.
Yeah. You texted, you're like, should we be having a crack at him tonight? Like, what's the thinking here? Like, we're going to have to take 10 wickets. And I was kind of like, nah, just grind it. Like, this will be so demoralising for India. And then about halfway through the second session on day 5, I was like, fuck.
We're not going to get them.
We're not going to bowl them out. Like, they were digging in. And I was like, this. And Cummins would have got crucified for his captaincy in that.
Not aggressive enough, not trying to.
Yeah, and all the rest of it.
At that point, but
turns out the professional cricket captain knows what he's doing.
Well, I think you got 6 there in the notes. I thought it was 7. I thought they got 7 in the last session.
Yeah, I think it was 7.
Yeah,
so that might be an error in the note.
Yeah, but that's the point. Is we're going into the last session needing 7 wickets, and luckily we got ahead and then started cruising through them, and then of course the GOAT got the last one with absolute scenes right there. In the final
nine
hour,
crowded around the bat.
Exactly, that's what Test cricket's made of. So and it ended up being a great overall. Test match to get to that point. Like India looked like they'd almost made it through and were going to save it, and then force a decider essentially in
sudden death.
Exactly. So it was a great Test match.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it. And it was a perfect time to watch all of it as well at that time of year.
Overall, you've got it as one of the all-time greats. I don't know if I'd go that far, but in terms of
recent memory,
we got 5 days. Yeah. We had the electrifying
5 days shock. Oh my god!
We had the electrifying opening session on Boxing Day, which is the biggest Test cricket
storylines. We had plenty of storylines,
but just in terms of interest and intrigue. Boxing Day 1, 100,000 in the G. Electrifying from Sam Constas. We had the smudge.
I think it was the biggest ever crowd.
Redemption.
I think for
the whole thing was like 400,000 people or something.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the incredible day 4, day 5 crowds as well. It was a really, really good Test match and thoroughly set up the 5th Test in Sydney. So at that stage, we couldn't lose the Test series, but we didn't have our hands on the trophy. We needed just a draw in Sydney. We go out and we win by 6 wickets. Mitch Marsh, I was surprised that they pulled the pin on a winning team. I thought, he hasn't really contributed a whole lot other than maybe a few catches in the field. Bo Webster, in hindsight, excellent choice from the selectors. Pretty like for like in terms of, batting all rounder, can help out with the ball. Actually unlucky with the ball. Actually unlucky with the ball. It might be interesting going over, assuming, he goes over to Sri Lanka, being able to do that Andrew Simons, Colin Funky Miller, mixing up his meds with some spin might be interesting over there. A really good debut from Snug. Yeah,
I agree. He's a big motherfucker too. I think
he's big boy.
Just over, I think 6'6.5". Just shy of 6'7". So, a big fella. I think with the Marsh thing, I think he was dealing with a bit of injury as well. Like they had been concerned about strains for him as well. He hadn't been bowling a whole lot, it's whether his batting was contributing enough to keep him in the side, and he wasn't getting double digits. So I think at that point they were kind of like, we're one rest, but also two, it's like your form's not where it was like a year ago. And unfortunately for Marsh, is he 32, 33?
A bit older than that, I think,
it's probably his last chance in the Australian squad. So,
and it's interesting.
There was some after that 4th Test. There was some, taking photos with the family on the pitch after the game and stuff like that. Kind of, makes you think that he thought it was the last one. Yeah, he's 33. just turned 33.
33. And interesting how he's alluding to, not quite the form of a year ago. The bloke was an Allen Border medalist a year ago.
Yep.
He's on top of the world. Great speech talking about how he's the most hated man in Australia for a
one
period
of the all-time
there.
comebacks.
And then, the Australian public's just so quick to turn as well. It's, you've said it on this podcast before, but what have you done for me recently? And in this series, you hadn't really done a whole lot. So, selectors swing the axe. Bo Webster takes his opportunity. No, he's in his 30s as well.
He's 30s,
yeah.
okay.
Because for both Melbourne and Sydney,
31,
we didn't have anyone in their 20s because Constance is a 19-year-old and then everyone else is 30.
We do have a pretty old team that is there.
Going to be massive turnover in the next few years.
Yeah. Oh, and, Cam Green's going to come back and will probably slide straight back in the squad. So, yeah, if they went the 2 all-rounders again or whether he was going to take Bison's spot, like they have that all-rounder spot, you'd think Cam Green got the shoe in. So, again, it's unlikely that Marshes will play again for Australia, barring injuries.
Yeah, you never know.
Exactly.
Because Cam Green's not going to be ready in a month for Sri Lanka.
No. I'm assuming they'll take a Webster, though, to fill that.
Yeah, you'd be very stiff to miss out after his efforts here.
Yeah.
Rohit opted out of the test.
Yeah.
The language used around it.
Out. Needed rest. To me, it very much read like... you're getting sacked. You're being fired. It's like, I'm not getting fired. I quit.
100%. Fall on your sword, brother. Opting out was strange language.
Such a strange
You
language.
opt out of an email list. I don't want these spam emails.
I want to cancel my subscription. I want to
opt out.
I'm not being the test captain for India in a must-win test.
I don't think you just opt out of that. It was interesting.
Some of the wording as well was just like, he's such a team man. It's such a good team decision. Like the propaganda from the Indians squad to try and cover it up. But to me, his form was dreadful. They couldn't find a good spot for him.
Garbage.
Yeah, like it didn't matter whether he batted down the order or his preferable spot, and it kind of, I think, fucked him as well. Like it really hurt Rahul, I reckon, too, and getting him early really helped the Australians in some of those innings. So I think, like they kind of did with Ashwin, they're forcing him into retirement, and he's 37 and almost going to be 38.
He will be 38 when they play the England series. I doubt it's the last that we've seen of him, but I think
with Shubman, they're ready to go.
You reckon that you wouldn't be surprised?
I think they'll probably announce if Bumrah's healthy. I think Bumrah will be the captain against England, and Rohit will be forced into retirement.
Doesn't make for good reading, does it? His 2024. This was his Border-Gavaskar Trophy, 3-9-10-3-6. So
3 in the PM's 11 game as well.
Yeah, and then India doesn't make India versus New Zealand doesn't make for much better reading. 18-11, duck 8-2-52. So he did have that 1/2 century there. Against New Zealand and the series against Bangladesh before that, not much better either.
Oh, it doesn't have England there because they played England as well just before that too. I was wondering how he did against them.
Yeah, he had
another series they lost. So,
yep, I think the writing was on the wall.
Actually, they lost to New Zealand. Yeah,
for Rohit.
A lot of questions about his captaincy as well, not being as aggressive. Like the difference in styles from the first test.
Yeah, we got pumped. Yeah, we got pumped in Perth.
Exactly, to 2, 3, and 4, and even in the fifth. Well, not so much the fifth test, but they lost the edge a little bit. It felt so. Yeah, and whether that was kind of his captaincy, the joke going around was his captaincy. His plan was bowl Bumrah. If that doesn't work, give him a break and then bowl him again in 20 minutes. If that doesn't work, bowl him again. And if that doesn't work, try him at the other end and hope that works.
It's a reasonable plan. But had a pretty good series.
But out of that, if that didn't work, he couldn't get wickets, then he seemed a bit lost. And some of the more legendary Indian former players were very much into him about this is your form's terrible and your captaincy is not much better.
They don't hold back the Indian ex players, do they?
Some knives out in the backs very, very quickly.
There was interesting commentary from Sonny Gavaskar regarding Richard Pant, some of his stroke play, and just saying it's stupid, essentially, or the shot was stupid. They definitely don't mince their words. At us in the comments if you are an Indian fan, and let us know what you think should be done with Rohit. Was that the last that we see of him in the Test arena, or does he deserve a run again in the middle of the year? What about Smudger? He had 2 chances to surpass 10,000.
I was just going to ask you, what was the other change they made leading into that 5th test?
For India?
For India.
Yeah, so Akash Deep went out, Prashid Krishna came in.
Okay.
Yep.
Was there any other changes?
I don't think that was injury force. I think they just wanted a different sort of look at some support for Bumrah.
Yep. Which in hindsight probably made a lot of sense considering he essentially been carrying that team and ended up with the foot strain, is it?
That's his back, I think.
Back strain.
Yeah, so but
he's carrying the team also.
Yeah, that's why he blew out his back. They were a little tight-lipped going into the 3rd day regarding, I think the fear was stress fracture. Then they came out and said muscle spasm, which can be painful but is not really devastating. So it's watch this space for Indian fans. You really don't want him to have a stressy at his age. No one wants to have a stress fracture, but for a guy that's top of the world at the moment. The other thing is with his action as well, because it's such an unusual action, short run up, he has to generate so much torque. I don't know if that's playing into things there.
I would have thought that fuck his elbow up first before it did his back.
Well, I think his elbow is just sort of genetically abnormal. Like it shouldn't hyperextend as much as it does, and I don't know if that's going to give him problems later in life. But I don't think for now, from as far as I can tell, I don't think he's had ongoing elbow issues. No. I think it's just sort of an advantage of his anatomy. Back to Smudger. So stranded on 9,999 runs. Hopefully, he's only got to wait a few weeks to join that illustrious 10,000 club.
Yep,
become the 4th Australian in that club. You want to talk about Scott Boland?
Yep.
This bloke always takes his opportunity when given. Had a 10-fer in Sydney, finished with 10 for 76. His test average still sits around 17, I think, and even lower for this series since coming in.
I think it was for 14, this year maybe? It was 13.8 last time I checked. Probably 14.
Call it 14. Is the bloke just too good to be left out of the side when everyone's healthy? Obviously, horses for courses approach applies. In Sri Lanka, it might be a different kettle of fish, given that there's going to be some different decks dished up, you'd imagine. There is an argument down here. Nathan Lyon wouldn't really have to use him too much in this series at all. Bowled a little bit in
the 4th test
Melbourne, but very little in Sydney.
Again, going back to short test matches, he doesn't really need
him all that much.
Ones,
So where does Scott Boland fit in your plan for the Aussie team moving forward?
Well, I think we've had this conversation. Cummins is captain.
Mm-hmm. He's not going anywhere.
Stark is different. He's your firebolt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, bowls quicker. He's left armour. He can take people's head off.
So it's Hazelwood and Boland, and it's just like, is there a world where Boland is better than Hazelwood? Then you look at the numbers for the year, and it's just like Hazelwood's took 35 poles at average of 13,
14.
4.
Yeah.
So
within most people that do a test team of the year had Josh Hazelwood in it, given how well he went, and really it's just his body that let him down. Josh Hazelwood this year, the big bush horse, breaking down a little bit. And then I go back to, well, does it have to be like for like? Does it have to be, we can't have Boland and Hazelwood in at the same time. Mitch should be in the conversation, but when Mitch gets a roll on, obviously he's the most erratic out of the rest of them.
But some of the balls that he bowls,
he becomes the most unplayable out of all.
Exactly, yeah. And some of the peaches that he got Yazwell with, you're just like,
no one's keeping.
No one's
when it's swinging and he's on, like he's probably the. I'd imagine the scariest people getting around to face when he's on.
I agree, and that's why he's in the squad. Like he's there. If you got Cummins that kind of. They kind of, I think of them as a scale, like Stark's on this end, Boland Hazelwood on this end for like consistency, and Seaman and Cummins is kind of right in the middle.
That's
so that's where they kind of fit, and unfortunately there's only 3 spots, and that's there, and I know we had a little bit of a conversation about well, if you're not playing Nathan Lyon, is he not needed as much? Do you go 4 quicks, which will be, what is the Ashes team going to look like at the end of the year? I think you want Lyon for deeper in the games, but then do you go 4 quicks and then can you get coverage from Travis Head, who I think had the best average of international bowlers for Australia this summer, this year, calendar year. So, is those guys enough coverage if you actually need some spin? And you go 4 quicks and you try and get more 3-day tests, like you're trying to get 15 wickets in a day kind of thing.
Yeah, you might be able to go that way. And we're just talking about how good Cummins' batting's been, and Stark is no slouch either. Depending on the deck, you might be able to. The other thing you might just do is it just becomes a rotation policy and just trying to avoid, Hazelwood.
They hate that though.
I know, yeah.
I know we've done that in previous years and previous eras as well.
It used to be the policy for ODIs.
Yeah.
Like we're not going to burn you guys out for, relatively, meaningless ODI here or there. I suppose, like you said, they're going to be like, well, I don't want to just be rested on Boxing Day.
Yeah.
Like I want to be playing, so am I in or am I out?
Because I remember, was it Stuart Clark? When they kind of were rotating Clark into going and resting other guys, and they're just like, yeah, he's really good, but also we want to be playing. Like we don't want to. Yeah. Yes, you're load managing us, but we want to be playing the test matches.
Yeah,
And considering how many test matches we played this year, like we probably don't need to load manage them.
Well, it all spikes, doesn't it? At one point,
exactly.
That's
why these guys are getting injured as well.
It's we've just played. Brisbane, and then there's a reasonable turnaround going into Melbourne, and then there's a 3-day turnaround going because we went 5 days. It's you blink and it's good for the fans. Oh shit, yeah, the cricket's back on again.
And this is why like Hazelwood, Stark, Marsh, Bumrah all end up with strains. Is for that reason. Like that's it's extensive load in a short period.
And it's done to fit into our holiday period, which is brilliant. Why we love cricket. I don't have the answers here, and I'm going to fence sit a little bit.
I like to have the not the conversation, the imagination. If Hazelwood hadn't existed, what would Boland's career look like? Because
probably has 250 plus.
He made his international debut there in 2016 in a 1-day series. So basically when Hazelwood kind of started his career, they kind of overlap of where they started time wise. Like he could have had 10 years in the Australian squad. This kind of average, how many wickets could you take? He probably could have had the same career Hazelwood had, but he unfortunately is the fourth dude. Like maybe he wasn't as consistent and has been as good as Hazelwood over the same sort of period. But you just think he takes 10 wickets, he goes 6 for 7, and you're just like different dimension, different time, and he could have been. Taking 500 bowls.
And there's a long list of Australian cricketers that are in that
Stuart McGill.
Same ilk. Well, the sweet Prince Stuart McGill had 200 test bowls. Yeah. Like even just playing with Warne, or the year that Warne missed probably helped that out a lot. Yeah. But it's almost like some of the great shield batsmen of the 90s and early noughties. You think it's Stuart Law and Jimmy Marr and Jamie Siddons. A lot of these guys that if they were playing anywhere else, probably played a lot of Test cricket. Mm-hmm. At least Boland's getting his opportunity, and he's old and it's come late and he's had to wait for it. But there's a good chance he finishes his career with an average under 22. Yeah,
and by all accounts, with Cummins probably not playing in Sri Lanka because of the birth of his child, and with Hazelwood 50-50, maybe he'd be right by then. And Stark, they might want to rest him as well because he just been on the series and had been, there had been some complaints of strains and stuff in the back as well. He's going to do some commentary for his wife's Ashes coming up as well. Mm-hmm. So, maybe, if Hazelwood's good, it's maybe Hazelwood and Boland, we go the 2 spinners, or if they take 3 quicks, maybe someone like Spencer Johnson gets a go, or like you said, we've got Jai Richardson and Sean Abbott who've been sitting in the squad as well.
I don't think Spencer Johnson will go over there.
I meant just as like a like-for-like Stark replacement.
Sure. It'll be interesting. I think for mine, it's a bit of a no-brainer. If Boland's fit and ready to...
I think Boland's a definite in that squad. It's just like who's going to be in a month's time. Who's going to be with him. So.
Wouldn't be surprised if we see 2 spinners. But we'll talk about that, I suppose, in upcoming pods.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else to take out of the Border-Gavaskar in itself?
It was a great series. Australia won it. We've won everything.
Boomerang man of the series, deserved. I thought.
Yep.
He had 32 wickets at 13.
Yeah. Oh, if he'd played on that last day, maybe it's a bit of probably scary and a bit of a different conversation.
Yeah.
But I think we got there. I think we were probably going to get there in the end. But I would have been more worried if Boomerang had a bowl. If he took two early polls,
and
it's a different kind of concept. But
and he gets the momentum shifting so quickly as well.
Yeah, I think it's. It ended up kind of being a shoe-in. I think it's probably more coin toss if he's bowling than, 160. I think we should probably get it, but against Boomerang, it was like, it's going to be a lot more tougher than it ended up being.
Shout out to Travis Head, most runs in the series, 448 at 56.
Solid innings to win, though.
Yeah, he struck at 92 and a half.
Him and Webster to get the win in that fifth test match.
Was nice. Bo Webster hitting winning runs in a series debut. Young boys and girls dream about it. World Test Championship is in June. It will be us versus South Africa. It will be in England. We are watching South Africa play Pakistan at the moment. They made 650 or something in the first innings. So keep an eye on the Saffers. I'm quietly confident that we can get the job done, but we've got to wait 6 months to find out.
Yeah, I think Azam had got tons in the previous two matches as well. So.
Yeah, Pakistan, the way they're going, not too bad following on here. 3 for 280. Draw maybe on the cards in this one by the looks.
Yeah. It was fourth day. So I think it was fourth day when I clicked on it. So there might be
day 4. And this would have only just started. So it's probably...
Yeah, and they still trail by 100. So that if they keep this pace, they might get a lead, but it might be a small one. So, yeah.
I think South Africa's well on top.
Yeah.
Forgive us, we have just sort of jumped in watching this.
Rabana got a nice clean bowl before. Knocking over poles.
He's very good.
Yes.
BBL, haven't been following heaps, I must admit. You had to be living under a rock, I suppose, if you didn't see the Glenn Maxwell catch from the other night. What are your thoughts around that? I've got a few people that reckon it shouldn't be a catch because you're outside of the field of play. The rule obviously states that if you doesn't matter if you leave, as long as leave.
Yeah, but he makes his initial contacts while he's jumping out of the field of play.
Yeah, but
he didn't start out and then jump in.
Correct. He starts in and jumps out.
Yeah, fine to me. And then touches the ball in the air.
Yeah, I reckon.
And then lands and jumps back up and then...
I reckon it's incredibly athletic.
Yeah.
And you're probably only going to really see... I don't know, the way that Test cricket's going, you may see a dismissal like that in Test cricket, but you're probably really only going to see that.
It's not like he's jumped over the fence, gone 3 rows deep, jumped up in the air, hit it up, and then...
Baseball shit.
Yeah, got a bag.
Jeter jumping 3 rows back, smashing his face up.
Yeah, it's nothing like that.
It's incredible timing and athleticism.
Yeah.
Because actually just being able to have the hops to get up in the air and stay that long in the air, pretty incredible stuff there from Maxi. And then something on the other end of the spectrum, pretty horrific scenes the other night in Perth with Cam Bancroft and Dan Sams going full clip into each other, sort of reminiscent of Steve Waugh and Jason Gillespie back in the day. Both blokes are suffering concussions and some broken bones. Yeah, both okay. I think Bancroft is out for the...
Yeah, he broke his collarbone and his nose.
Yeah.
And of course had a bad concussion.
Yeah.
He had the fencing as well.
It looked like a league player getting knocked out.
Yeah. Sam's, I think, was a little bit better, but he also suffered a bad concussion they're saying he'll miss 12 days, which is a large part of the BPL season and how quickly it turns out.
He'll be all right for finals.
Yeah, he'll be all right for finals.
The Thunder are thereabouts.
Yeah, but Bancroft is, it's a long layoff for him, unfortunately.
Poor bloke, like the run that he's had in general.
The last 4 months hasn't been kind to him, unfortunately.
I'll just try and get a BBL ladder here. Sixers, top Thunder also up there. So Sam's trying to get back, obviously, for finals. Hurricanes, Scorchers, and then need to pull their finger out. Heat, Renegades, Strikers, Stars. There'll still be a couple of weeks left, and then finals should be starting towards the end of January, I would think, for the Big Bash. We'll watch this space. As the Test cricket starts to wrap up, I start to get a little bit more interested on a personal level. You do feel for the wives and girlfriends around Australia, although a lot of them are into cricket these days, or say they are to keep their husbands happy through the Christmas period when that's Test cricket into a double header. That TV can be playing cricket from 10 a.m. till midnight. That'll do us, I think, for cricket.
Yep.
We the Border-Gavaskar Trophy winners once again. Feels good. I feel safe. I feel relieved. Especially after Perth, I think a lot of people were starting to hit panic stations. I think on this pod we're just trying to calm it down. I think we entertained at least the conversation around.
Blokes need to get runs. And
Marnus, I think, in particular, I think whilst he didn't turn up, he had those three important 50s. I think he's done fine by himself and by the team. And the chat around Usman might be interesting moving forward. Obviously, getting a little bit long and needs some runs.
Yeah, but he got 50 in that last match, so what have you done late for?
Watch this space. We'll talk cricket again next pod, and then we'll talk Aussie Test cricket in less than a month's time. Yeah. So it's Monday here in Australia. That means it was Sunday. Sunday's just wrapped up really over in America. We have our final standings in the NFL. No, it's all done.
It's all done.
All done, leading into playoffs. So we'll talk. I think we'll go through the divisions and talk about how it all finished up, and then we'll talk about the playoffs in a sec. Pro Bowl was announced as well, but we may leave that for next episode.
Get closer to it.
Starting in the AFC East, the Bills finished 13-4, so they lost today at the Patriots. That will have draft implications for the Pats. 8-0 at home this season, clinched the 2 seed. The loss didn't really matter in terms of seeding. Josh Allen had a rest. In your mind, is he the MVP?
I think Lamar should probably still be MVP, unfortunately.
Unfortunately?
Yeah, well, I seeing a lot of the narrative of, I kind of feel like maybe that happened to Joker when Embiid won his. It was like
they need someone else.
Exactly, he's won enough, and let's do someone else. But statistically, it's better than his previous 2 MVP seasons.
Like passing the ball, like a lot better.
Yeah, he's the first quarterback with 4,000 passing yards and over 4,000 and over 800 rushing yards as well. First one to do that, threw over 40 touchdowns, run for a bunch more. I think he had, I can't remember his combined, I think it was 43 or 44, something like that. But, significantly more than what Allen had, unfortunately. I kind of think it's him. I think Burrow is like an interesting one to have from a pure passing numbers, but he just unfortunately doesn't make up with it with the
wins. Yeah, Burrow's numbers are incredible.
Yes,
but they're not playing in the playoffs, and really a lot of that was the fault of his defense. But yeah, I don't think he's the MVP. Although he's my MVP because won a fantasy comp against you. Actually, he's got the winner and the runner-up here in a 10-team competition, and I had Joey Burrow and got hot at the right time of the season. I don't actually have odds at the moment for the MVP from our Australian bookies.
Yeah, maybe just search MVP odds and see what comes up. Because I believe that's the 3-horse race. I think Allen and Lamar are a lot closer, and Burrow's a distant third.
Yeah, exactly. MVP odds, NFL. We may need to convert this from the US way. Oh, hang on. We might better get it into Aussie. No, that link didn't work. The old odds before today were Josh Allen $1.36, Lamar $3, Joe Burrow 21. So today shouldn't really have affected that much.
Well, Jackson threw a bunch more touchdowns to get over 40.
But that was yesterday.
Oh, sorry, yesterday, yeah.
So I'm pretty sure that's from today.
Allen sat.
So going back to US, so Josh Allen at minus 230, Lamar Jackson at plus 185, Joe Burrow at plus 14. So that in our terms is Joe Burrow's about $14. Lamar plus 185 is like $2, close to $2.
Well, it's what is it? You got to pay. If you pay $1, you get $1.85 back.
But then minus 230, I don't know. They're fucking hard to work it out.
Yeah, that's
they've got 2 guys under $2.
You have to pay $2.30 to win $1.
Classic betting agencies, but it's still Lamar trailing Josh Allen.
It's very close, but yeah, they've got Allen there. I know a lot of the rhetoric. He had that kind of really good month. A lot of primetime games, which really does help with
some of those shootouts.
Getting in front of the voters and being able to see. Getting your name in the media, and there's a lot of conversation about that as well. But purely learn on numbers thing, he's losing in a lot of categories to Lamar Jackson, unfortunately.
Josh Allen, 3,731 passing yards, 28 touchdowns, 6 intercepts, quarterback rating 101.4. Rushing aside, let's go straight to Lamar here, okay? 4,172 passing yards, 41 touchdowns, 4 intercepts, passer rating 119.6. You look at those numbers, rushing aside, that's the MVP right there in my books is Lamar Jackson. You add some rushing value here. Allen had more touchdowns, but Lamar had him pretty handily covered for yards. So
300 more for.
Josh Allen had 531 rushing yards, but 12 rushing touchdowns.
To take his total to 40.
And then Lamar had 915 on the ground with just the 4 rushing touchdowns.
Take his total of 45.
Yep. So total touchdowns, Lamar still has Josh Allen covered. He has him covered in every passing category. He had 400 more rushing yards. The only thing he's missing is the rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, about 1,000 total all-purpose yards more as well. So, and like I said, it's better than his previous MVP seasons. Again, if you go back
considerably,
but go back to Burrow's numbers there as well. He's almost 5,000 passing and 43 touchdowns. So, that's why he's third. But I think, like we said, the dynamic running adds a significant portion to it. So,
and I'm more than happy for Joe Burrow to be a distant third here because of the lack of winning comparatively to those two. And the lack of rushing impact.
I feel like it's probably it's one of those coin flips. It depends on what section of the media you are. Baltimore, he's already run it twice. Can he do a third? I feel like even though it's better than his previous two, might want something different. And I've, again, using that unfortunate word, that might be Allen, but that'll definitely ask legacy questions in 20 years' times. But yeah.
Rest of the AFC East, not too much to write home about. Dolphins lose today to the Jets. There is a big story that's come out. Tyreek wants out. Had given up on the team a little bit in the last quarter.
He didn't play last quarter. He basically said, I'm unavailable, and that was it. And then in the press conference afterwards, McD confirmed that. Like, I was told he wasn't available, wasn't going to play in the fourth quarter, and it wasn't injury related. And then Tyreek's comments post that is like, I'm done. I'm out of here.
I'm out, bruh. It was great playing here. At the end of the day, I got to do what's best for my career. I'm too much of a competitor to just be out there.
He's 32.
This is a guy 12 months ago that was voted, not even 12 months ago, it's like less than 6 months ago, voted by his peers as the number 1 player in the NFL. Tua's concussion plays into this a little bit.
It's not a complete team though either. Like they're not, they're a couple pieces away kind of thing. Their defense isn't as good as some of the other ones, and without losing Tua probably hit the biggest thing. But it's just it's hard to placate the receivers if they're not getting the ball, essentially. And there was large periods of this year where he was just very quiet. And he's probably disappointed in that.
There's no one really.
It's not a huge deal though. So trading him is going to be a challenge. But someone will probably pony up that's got money. Patriots supposedly have 130 million salary cap space and a new head coach, and a young quarterback might be interested. Rumors they want Higgins.
I don't see him winning now. I think he's going to really want to go to a win now sort of top scenario.
But then the Dolphins have to also do him a solid and trade him somewhere. They probably wouldn't trade him in division, but stranger things. As an example, team that's got a bit of cash room and potentially add a talent like him.
It'll be an off-season story to follow, that's for sure, and may have some draft implications too.
They did confirm, though, that their coach and GM, so McDaniels, will be back next year. No firings for them.
Jets finished 5-12, very disappointing given Aaron Rodgers stayed healthy all year. Actually didn't look too bad today. 3 for 4 touchdowns. Did get Devontae Adams absolutely lit up on one trick play. All the questions, I think, going into draft will be, do they draft quarterback for Rodgers to mentor? He's on his last year of his contract. Also, Netflix doco going around for Aaron Rodgers at the moment. So watch that and make up your own mind. Definitely
Mid-unit.
Yeah, definitely not what comes to mind when you think football player. Obviously, a very intelligent man, and
Definitely
probably involved in what a lot of people would consider alternative lifestyle these days. But I quite enjoyed the doco, and always special place in my heart as a Packers fan. But go out and check that, and then the story probably leading into the draft will be which quarterbacks are left on the board, and do they want him to mentor, or do they want to get him a weapon for one last shot next year?
Yeah. They do need a head coach. There had been rumours about Mike Vrabel was very interested in that job. Rex Ryan was the other one. The reports, though, that maybe Vrabel's interest in the Jets was a reason for trying to push the Patriots, who the last one in the division finished 4-13, who then fired Mayo today after they won. So
you idiot! You were meant to lose that game.
Yeah.
Joe Milton got a cannon. We already knew that.
Yes.
He got to show it off in a real NFL game, which was nice. Because they had the number 1 pick, did they not?
Correct.
So as it stands, they have the number 4 pick.
I don't think it affects them too much because I think Drake Mayer. I think you look at what the rest of this draft class of quarterbacks has done. You assume that you've got one as good a talent wise. You haven't managed to pick the bust, or you'd think you'd be able to get something out of him. And he's still young, and you want to develop him. And maybe Mark Vrabel's the right kind of guy that can come in and build a good defense and manage to do pretty well with Derrick Henry and AJ Brown before they trade away all the players. And that's why the Titans got the number 1 pick. So.
Yeah, watch this space. I think they would have traded down if they had finished with the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
I think what are they picking? 3 or 4? Probably a better spot for them. Some of the core QBs can go and they can get the best offensive or defensive talent based on whoever they get for coach.
Over to the AFC West, Sean's AFC West. The Chiefs played their 2s today with Carson Wentz at quarterback and did nothing really, especially offensively.
Got benched in the fourth quarter. Actually, no one played in the fourth quarter. Both teams. They were playing third stringers in the fourth quarter for the Chiefs, and Denver were playing second stringers because the game was over by then.
What did it finish? 38?
Nothing.
Yeah, so you would have seen a fair bit of that this morning. Bo Nix was rolling.
Oh, rolling. Very, very happy. Threw 4 touchdowns and 300-plus yards, so had a pretty good game. And, they were definitely on it and very, very dominant in this one.
Is he your rookie of the year? Trying to keep your personal bias aside?
I thought he lost ground a couple of weeks ago when Daniels threw 5 against the Eagles. And I kind of think that win in prime time, playing that prime time game, was probably the difference. I think Denver tried too hard in their prime time games they played. They kind of went out of their scheme and tried to get Nix to kind of throw deep a lot more, try to get those highlight reel things, highlight reel clips so they could, again, push the media. I think statistically, he's probably done better. He's the second most touchdowns by a rookie ever. Daniels is sitting at equals 6th, I think, for his 25. He had the most games with 2 touchdowns and no intercepts and over 200 yards by a rookie ever.
That's pretty impressive.
So there's, he set a bunch of records, most touchdowns at home by a rookie as well ever. He set a franchise record today of completion percentage broke. He broke Peyton Manning's percentage record today. So
in a game against a bunch of, they had to win, but
they had to win. Yeah,
it was against the 2s.
It was against the 2. But having said that, I think his numbers make it a conversation. But I think the media hype around Daniels probably edges out in his favour. And
that first 6 weeks of the season, Jaden Daniels was completely unstoppable. Yep. Whereas Bo Nix, probably the last 6 weeks, 2 months, really big part of why the Broncos are going back to the playoffs.
Exactly. Like they lost the last 2 games, and over the last 3 games, he's thrown 9 touchdowns and 1 interception, and thrown for 1,000 yards and added all the extra rush yards as well. So, he's had a really good 3 weeks, but they just played poor defense, unfortunately, in those 2 games and lost them. So, I think he's definitely ascending, and I'm very, very happy.
The passing numbers are comparable. Jaden Daniels finished with 3,500, 3,568 passing yards, 25 touchdowns, 9 intercepts. QBR 100. And Bo Nix finished with 3,775 yards, 29 touchdowns, so more yards, more touchdowns, although did play the extra game. 12 intercepts, so he
played 2 extra games. Daniels missed
with the injury.
He missed at least 3/4 of a game at the start of the year.
And his quarterback rating of 93 is also lower. Bo Nix actually sneaky good with his legs, but obviously
he's a scrambler than a runner that you would consider like Daniels and
design runs.
Yeah, because Daniels had I think 800 rushing.
Yeah, 891 with 6 rushing touchdowns,
whereas Bo I think was 400 with 4.
So for mine, I think it's still Jaden Daniels. I was kind of like laughing like a month ago when you were like, "Oh yeah, watch out for Bo Nix," and then the last few weeks I'm like, "Oh yeah, he's definitely got a case to make." But for mine, still Jaden Daniels with Bo Nix, probably a close second. And then you got to give a shout out to Brock Bowers. Broke some rookie.
Unfortunate, he set the record for receptions for a receiver,
for anyone.
Yeah, because Neighbours got it to 109, and then Bowers in the late window broke it and set it at 110. So he's breaking receiver numbers essentially as a traditional tight end. So yeah, and
broke Mike Ditka's receiving yardage record.
Broke my dick. Yeah.
Broke my dick. That was after the game. Also on my fantasy team. Make of that of what you will. Mike Ditka, that receiving yards record for a rookie tight end was like 60-year-old record.
Broke Laporta's touchdown tight end reception record as well, and then broke the official rookie one for receivers. So
broke all kinds of records. Unfortunately, Raiders didn't do much, and I think as well it's a quarterback award.
Exactly. Yeah, he's a distant third, but a well-deserved third and a great rookie year.
Chiefs obviously don't care too much today. There was a bit of funny rhetoric around, they are scared of Joey Burrow and they wanted to get the Bengals eliminated. I don't think that's just internet meme culture more so than anything. They will get 3 weeks rest, which is crazy. It was Boxing Day that they beat the Steelers pretty handedly, then had the week off this week for their starters, and then they'll get the number 1 seed and have next week off in the wildcard round. So it's going to be 3 weeks. So all the little niggles and aches and pains, there shouldn't really be any. There is maybe sort of, lack of game time leading into it. That sort of thing comes into the conversation, although they've won Super Bowls from this sort of position before.
I think we've talked about it. Their team is different than how they've won Super Bowls in the past. It's a very defensive heavy team.
Mahomes' numbers lackluster by his lofty standards, not selected to the Pro Bowl.
Their offense is not as good. It's been banged up, the receivers, running backs. They haven't been scoring multiple points, but they have the number 1 scoring defense. So, they limited teams to the least amount of points through the season. So that's what they're building off. But you want championship caliber defense going into it. But it'll be interesting to see how that plays out when potentially Allen or Lamar rolls through town into Kansas City, and they'll see how they play. But Kansas City's going to be cold as always, and we'll see how they finish that.
Did they score 30 points this season? They did.
Against Buccaneers.
I think it was only once that they did.
Yep.
They scored high 20s a lot. They scored 30 against the Panthers. So they did score 30 a couple of times this year. Definitely not the high-powered Chiefs offense of yesteryear. AFC is going to have to run through them, you'd imagine.
Yeah. Someone's got to beat Kansas City if they want to win the Super Bowl.
Chargers 11-6. They'll have a fun game against the Texans next week. Justin Herbert and Quentin Johnson, they're both trying to get elevate their seeding. They had a really good game today, and the Raiders, as we mentioned, a bit of a stinky year. They finished 4-13. They have 6th pick, 6th pick next year,
which is a big loss for them, considering the whole Sanders rhetoric for quite a while.
I don't think he's falling that low, so he's going to have to. They're going to have to trade up. But then you look at Tennessee, Cleveland, New York, who are the 1, 2, 3 potentially all take quarterback.
Yeah, all need quarterbacks.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. AFC North, Ravens 12-5. I think the Ravens look the scariest team in the AFC. I think
they've kind of got the opposite problem with the Chiefs. Their offense has been carrying them, and their defense has been the question marks, which is not a Baltimore thing. It's yeah. We'll see come championship time whether that defense can lift to a different level. But yeah, that's very much been more Lamar trying to put up big scores to get them through.
Game on the line. If they're getting down close to the end zone, I think it's going to be a nightmare for tired defenses to try and stop Lamar and Derrick Henry, as it has been all year. Zay Flowers did go down with a knee injury. Would need to watch.
He's been a bit quiet over the last month, though, as well. They've been going to other options.
Selected to the Pro Bowl. Again, we'll talk Pro Bowl maybe in the next pod, but interesting selection there, I thought.
I agree.
Steelers 10-7. They've lost their last 4. A lot of our rhetoric in this.
Yeah, Mike Tomlin got to, it's a winning season, we're good.
Yeah. Put the boys on ice. They, I think, need to go back in pretenders category.
Yeah,
They'll be pretty rough outsiders next week, you'd imagine.
Yeah, 100% agree. They're built off their defense, but I just don't think they can put up enough points to even manage. If the team stop and holding teams to 17 points, for example, they're just not putting up enough. They're not putting up 21, so they're not winning games.
Yeah, nothing about their offense really invokes fear, I don't think.
No, not at all.
Bengals 9-8. We already spoke about Joey Burrow. We haven't spoken about Jamar Chase. Finishes with a triple crown. 127 receptions, 1,708 yards, 17 touchdowns. Elite year. Anyone that had him on their fantasy team would have been very, very happy. And I think the second time in 3 years that he's had the biggest fantasy game as well.
Should we talk offensive player of the year now?
Yeah.
Considering Chase can't get a look in at the MVP awards. Barkley, I think, was at $60 when you did that MVP odds before. I think he's the top wide receiver, and then Barkley and Henry are pretty close. Barkley got more rush yards and more touchdowns. So I think Barkley did it in the end of the season, did outpace Henry. So it's probably Barkley was RB1. Jamal Gibbs actually had a pretty good year. Touchdown-wise. 4
touchdowns today for Jameer Gibbs.
Very helps his case. I think he had 20 on the season. So,
Saquon's still a pretty short favourite through most bookies, although a little bit of value there for Jamar Chase, hovering sort of around about plus 1,000 to about plus 2,500. But most bookies have Saquon really short, and then it actually really blows out to some of the quarterbacks who may not get the MVP, and then the King. I don't think
it's very much. This is like a non-quarterback award, and the MVP is a quarterback award. So unless you've done something crazy generational,
So for you would like to see Lamar MVP, Saquon offensive player?
I think that's if I'm thinking I would say what should happen based on numbers. I think Lamar should be MVP and Saquon probably should be offensive player. But between offensive player, it's him or Chase. And you probably couldn't make a bad choice in that. Like you can definitely make a conversation for why Chase should be close to that. He's almost got 2,000 yards in receiving. Like that's pretty crazy.
Well, not really. It's 1708's close, but it's not almost 2,000. Yeah. Whereas Saquon is in that 2,000 club, and had he not been rested, may have had the ability to go past Eric Dickerson's 40-year-old record.
They do play like 2 extra games then back then too.
Sure.
So, caveat.
We might talk a little bit about that when we get to the Eagles. The Browns 3-14, basket case of a season.
Basket case of a franchise.
Yeah, got off to a really poor start with the
Interesting.
Deshaun Watson play.
They may not
injury.
take a quarterback because of the Deshaun Watson. They have to eat his contract and send him elsewhere, which would be huge because I think he's still over 100 mil in dead cap. So
yeah, that's a good point.
But
he was horrible before doing his Achilles. He was really bad, and then obviously in terms of the fans, like from what I can tell, like you never cheer an injury. The Cleveland fans were cheering when he did Achilles.
They played better with Winston. So yeah,
it's a horrible scenario. I think they will take a quarterback and just eat the cap.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Yep.
Tough to be a Browns fan, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
AFC South, Texans finish with the AFC South title. They beat the Titans today. CJ Stroud did play a drive and was pretty much perfect. They'll get the home playoff, which we'll talk about in a second.
It's interesting. Every time every time the Texans make the playoffs, they get the Saturday window. They get the first game on Saturday, which for them hasn't been great because they get knocked out of that game quite regularly. So,
It's a fun game.
It is a fun game, but I think I'll pick Chargers over them. We'll get to that in a minute.
We'll talk about it in a second.
I just don't think the Texans. I actually think that they were better last year because they had more momentum and hype, whereas I think they're kind of plateaued this year and have dealt with a lot of injuries as well.
And that may help them. You know, they might not have the hype train that they had last year. It's CJ Stroud on his numbers has definitely had a bit of a sophomore regression. Still very, very good at football. Colts 8-9. They beat the Jags in overtime today. So both head coach and GM will be back next year.
Confirmed. Yep.
Jags 4-13. They'll get the number 5 pick in the draft next year with T-Law hopefully
Nothing
back healthy
for them yet. So whether they keep what's his name, their head coach.
Doug Peterson,
whether they keep Peterson or not, or start again, which I feel bad for Trevor Lawrence. He's been through that many head coaches at this point.
Titans 3-14, number 1 pick next year. They lost their last 6. They went tankathon.
Yeah, shocker. You trade away all your best players and you end up being shit. So
let's jump over to the NFC and resume maybe that Saquon conversation. So he finished with 2,005 yards, so exactly 100 behind Dickerson from 1984. He would have needed 100 to equal 101.
To break, yep.
If you're head coach, what do you do in this scenario?
I think the same goal's always the same. You're trying to win Super Bowls.
Win the Super Bowl. Yeah, I agree.
You're not an individual team. Yes, there was a lot of talk today about getting guys their incentives and getting them what they need to get their money and get paid.
Yep.
We'll get to Mike Evans in a minute is the big one. But you're Eagles. You're 14-3. You're trying to win a Super Bowl. You've brought this guy in to take you to that next level because you lost the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You don't want him to risk it and go out there and break a leg, do an Achilles, whatever. He needs those legs, and you don't want to put the less miles you put on him, the better.
Yep, I agree 100%.
He's a Ferrari, bro.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. The Ferrari's done its job. It's won
he's
plenty of
races.
races.
Not the F-150 that Derrick Henry is. He's the Ferrari.
And you want him to feel rested and being his explosive best. And some of the shit that we saw this season, the backwards hurdle, I think that's imprinted in a lot of football fans' memory.
And they're the two
fact
seeds?
that someone can do that. It'll be Packers. Yeah.
So they'll have to play in the wild card, so they don't get the break. So, I think, rest him while you can.
Tanner McKee, actually sneaky good at football. Played all right last week as well with Jalen Hurts. Unavailable second half, so maybe team might go after him next year, or he may just stay in a good franchise with the Eagles. Commanders 12-5, they beat the boys. Jaden Daniels had limited snaps. We already spoke about Rookie of the Year.
They couldn't improve their position, so they sat him.
Cowboys 7-10. Very disappointing year. Obviously, Dax hasn't played for over a month now. They had Trey Lance playing today, which was interesting.
And he had some decent numbers as well.
So that guy's still getting around. Was a number 3 overall pick a few years ago. Lots of talk that they might be going Ashton Genty from Boise State in the draft.
They did release Ezekiel Elliott during the week too, which was interesting. But
Rico Dowdle hasn't been horrendous. Had a lot of rush yards. Didn't find the end zone very much.
They played better when they turned it over to him. Gave him 20 carries a game. Cooper Rush was solid and not spectacular.
I don't think he's taking Dak's job.
No, he's not taking Dak's job. But with that, throw the ball to CeeDee Lamb, hand it off to Rico, and they were more competitive. So I guess having a healthy defense helped a little bit.
Maybe I'm looking too much into these mock drafts. Maybe they might shore up their offensive line. Their defense was pretty ordinary.
Well, this is the thing. Dak's missed 2 seasons in the last 4. Protect Dak.
That's good for the amount of shit that he gets. He is good at football.
Still good at football, And you look at their best seasons in recent years, it was when they had the top offensive line in the league. So, there's invest in those guys. And yes, I think they drafted tackle last year or the year before. I think they've drafted a lot of tackles, honestly. But yeah, I think they're just trying to find those guys that fit in. And
Tyron Smith wasn't there this year, and Zach Martin's getting a bit older as well.
Yes.
So yeah, maybe shoring up that offensive line. This is all going to be good chat for April.
Yeah.
I think.
The
Giants, we talk about the Browns being a bit of a basket case. This franchise not much better. They finished 3-14.
Another team that still has their head coach. We'll see tomorrow.
There might be a few movements.
Black Monday, I think it is, as they all get fired and sacked. So we'll see what sort of movements we get from the head coaching ranks tomorrow.
They have number 3 pick. You imagine they go quarterback.
Yes. Yeah, I don't think they're going to roll out Locke next year. Though he hasn't been too bad.
Yeah, it's been horrible. Hasn't been much worse than Daniel Jones.
Correct.
NFC West, the Rams 10-7 already had the division locked up today, which means the Seahawks actually go out and beat the Rams backups, and they finish 10-7, which means they're the best team record-wise to miss out, unfortunately. Happens every year, just the way that the divisions work in football. You can have the same division as someone else and miss out. So their record, it was the same as the Texans, and they miss out. I don't think there wasn't any 9-8 teams that made it, so they can feel good about that.
Yep.
Cards finish 8-9. Kyler looked really good against the depleted 49ers. Well, I think we need to talk about the 49ers. 6-11.
Have they updated their Super Bowl odds yet?
Well, it was about...
It was still mid-season. They were favourites.
It was like week 6, they were NFC favourites, and we were like, I think we need to start adjusting this. We should have bet against it, really, is what we should have started doing.
That's just the casinos taking free money, essentially. It's like, if you want to bet on them, go for it.
Yeah, I didn't know. I couldn't make sense of that, especially before when we didn't know CMC, like when he was coming back. I think he ended up coming back week 9. And then, they looked a touch better for a little bit, and then did his PCL, and they've looked dog shit since.
Their offense has been super banged up.
Yeah, exactly.
And their defense hasn't been the same stellar level it had been previously. So.
Shout out to George Kittle, had a really good year. He's a fun man, fun footballer. They were horrendous. Finished 6-11. They don't, as well, historically back up well when they've had an NFC Championship game or a Super Bowl the year before.
Yep.
NFC North, best division in football all year. We spoke about it. We saw the Titans of the NFC North going head to head in prime time, and the Lions, if they weren't already on your radar as being legitimate Super Bowl favourites or contenders, they were way too good for the Vikings.
Yeah, and I don't want to say Sam Donald shit the bed, but I think they were just so outclassed. Let's put it that way.
Their defense stepped up, especially red zone defense.
Yeah, I think they knew the number 1 seed was on the line, and they wanted to
big game. It was a massive game.
Wanted to show who was going to be the ones. It was interesting. Campbell said to, what's the Vikings coach name?
Kevin O'Connell, who apparently is a shoe-in for Coach of the Year.
Yeah, some rumors that people wanted to trade for him as well. I was like, I don't think the Vikings would get rid of their head coach.
No, I think he's a really good coach.
Yeah, exactly. But Dan said to him after the game, "See you in 2 weeks." So I think he sees where it is, but they'll have to go back into Detroit to play that game again. So yeah, but you learn a lot when you lose.
There's a few good teams there. The Eagles, the Packers, that'll be putting their hands up. Stranger things have happened, but yeah, the Lions, hands down the best team in the NFC. That's for sure. Jahmyr Gibbs, aforementioned, finished with 20 touchdowns on the season. Finishes an RB1 in fantasy. There's a bit of it's an interesting one because
it's because touchdowns. Lots of points. So.
Of course, he had 45 or something today in fantasy. If anyone was playing fantasy in the last week,
if you're got fantasy in week 18, you need a new commissioner.
Given how many people would have spoke about resting, would be very, very frustrating week to have a fantasy final, I think. But statistically, a really nice year for him. What was the Montgomery injury again? Was it MCL? I feel like it was MCL. He might be Super Bowl okay, but they're probably going to have to go their run into it without him.
Going to be a lot of Gibbs to get there for the Super Bowl.
Packers 11-6. They lost today. It was actually a little bit frustrating.
What's up with Jordan Love though? I think that's the big question, right?
Elbow. It looked like he just sort of took a little bit of a knock. I don't think we'll have updates because he won't have gone for scans. Let's have a look here. Elbow.
Maybe in a couple of hours when it's morning time.
Yeah, we might get a little bit. So all the stories are just 12 hours ago, 14 hours ago. So him leaving the game. Might have just sprained his MCL a little bit. Not
great visuals there. They've carted off. Oh, no, that's Watson. Watson got carted off. Did Christian Watson get injured?
Yeah, Christian Watson got injured too.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot less devastating to the Packers. They're also saying here that he might have had a bit of numbness in his throwing hand, so that could have been like a stinger or hopefully not like a neck injury. So we'll see. Asked specifically if he likes his chances of playing in Philadelphia, Love was blunt and answered yes. So shouldn't be too much of an issue of him actually playing. How much of it's affecting him is probably going to be the story.
So what I'm seeing is elbow contusion, possibly funny bone, no structural worry. Expect next week to be a go.
Boom.
Yeah, so they're playing him safe. Yeah, it is on his throwing arm, which of course is a concern, but yeah.
Show that mechanism again. Just play the...
I think it's helmet.
I think helmet on the end of his elbow.
Yeah. Yeah, and he also
it's his offensive lineman.
It probably like double because it looks like it's hit there and like it's hit there. So, yeah,
he's just irritated his ulnar nerve. I think there that should be okay.
Funny bone, I wouldn't know. Yep. Shaking hand, gripping, and numbness on the 4th to 5th fingers on sideline throwing.
Yep, I think he'll be right.
Yeah, which is huge for them because they want Love to be their quarterback. He's been pretty good for them.
Bears finish on a reasonably high note, although Big Cat from part of my take might have something to say about it from a dry. No, he hates the Packers. He'll probably be happy with.
So is it 5-12?
5-12, yes. So
yeah,
they lost
a rough month.
Lost 10 in a row.
They had a good start of the year, 4-1, and then had
their season went to shit after the Tyreek Stevenson, not paying attention, taunting, and they get burned on that crazy Hail Mary. That's literally when they started going to shit.
Yep.
They beat the Packers at Green Bay. That's going to be massive for Bears fans. The team was happy. After Cairo Santos made that field goal, they definitely were celebrating like it meant something to them. Shambles of a season. Caleb Williams looks pretty good.
Yeah, he's what I expected to be, and accuracy is always going to be his challenge going forward. You know the talent's there, and he can make all the passes. It's just being consistent and doing those, the main things regularly to be able to put themselves into scoring positions. So, he had a pretty, average season for a quarterback, and it's about where I expected him to be. And they've got lots of weapons. They hopefully want him to grow next year. Though, new head coach again, another one of those young quarterbacks, unfortunately, and
they're just
thrown into a system when going to have a new head coach. Rumours, Pete Carroll really wants that job.
Wow, that'd be interesting to see Pete come back into the NFL.
The Joe Biden of head coaches. He's probably a bit more together.
I was going to say, that's harsh on Pete Carroll.
Yeah, yes, he might be the oldest one, but yeah.
How many Super Bowls has Joe Biden won, bro? None. Joe Biden wouldn't have run that ball on 4th down.
He was probably asleep by that
point. Bears, I thought they were going to Bears this game. They had a fumble with DJ Moore with under 2 minutes, gave the Packers the ball. They made a big 3rd down stop, kept the Packers to a field goal, and then went back and won the game. Big for the Bears players, as we spoke about, but actually really big for Packers because they got to go to Philly rather than getting, I think there would have been the Rams. So
you prefer the Rams, though? Yes,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It became a
huge,
big loss. For them, really. Alas, they'll have to go to Philadelphia, and if you want to play in the Super Bowls, got to go beat good teams.
You got to beat one of the. Yeah, you got to beat a good team to get there anyway.
NFC South, Bucks win the division. They look shaky. I think I was texting Monks, who's member of the podcast, not with us here tonight, big Bucks fan, and I was like, fuck, they're down 16-3. And at that time as well, Carolina were looking pretty good against the Falcons. Bucks second half, they turned it around. They got Mike Evans his two things. Yeah, so he gets the he needed 85 yards, he got 89, so he finishes with 1,004. In 14 games. It's his 11th straight season. Every season he's played in the NFL, 1,000 yards. That ties Jerry Rice's record from 86 to 96. Jerry Rice then blew out his ACL in first week of 97. Mike Evans is a future Hall of Famer. He's a fantasy god. He had, I think, 11 touchdowns on the year. and I think a lot of people were rooting for him to keep that record intact. Yes, it's only the difference of 4 yards, but it just looks so nice. 4 digits across 11 seasons, and also for him worth a couple milli.
Yeah, exactly. And the record, I think, is the main thing there to tie Jerry Rice's record, the record that stood for a very long time. Seeing Jerry play 20 years in the league, like it's the greatest wide receiver of all time. So I think it's you'd be really, really happy that they managed to make that happen, and the Bucks are really, really happy.
And just the durability, I was looking at it. He's the least games that he's played in a season is 13.
Yep.
So he's picked up some injuries in the past, but he's pretty much been able to play full seasons. There's been a few where he played 15. Obviously had his 14 this year. But just the durability, the toughness, probably the care that he takes with his body and rehabbing and prevention as well. It's an incredible career that he's had. Over the 100 touchdowns as well. He did that earlier in the year. I was considering him for a shout of beer, that's for sure.
Yeah. Also, I want to lead this in. I think Baker played really well this year. Goes with Sam Darnold also playing really well. And then
Jared Goff.
But I want to talk about Bryce Young. That's my lead-in because, two former high picks for the Panthers. The Panthers sacked their coach through the year at some point. But I know they benched Young.
Yep.
And he's really responded well to that and come back and had a really good month. And played really well in the shootout. I think he's one of the few rookie quarterbacks to have multiple 2 passing touchdowns and 1 rushing touchdown games, because he had, I think, he's had 2 in the last month. He might have had a few others to add to that.
He's a sophomore.
So, so not rookie, but as in just for a quarterback game. I think he's been really good. They've
kept him. Dave Canales is his name.
So I think he's just responded really well to the benching, essentially. Looking like that number 1 quarterback that he's meant to be, and let's hope that they can grow with him going forward.
Looked like he's having fun out there. I was watching Red Zone.
I think that's the main thing.
Just kept going back to this game because it was a shootout. And I think he threw for 4 tutties and ran 1 in. So it's good to see.
And flip side, go to the Falcons. Putting Penix in, I think, has really kind of ignited that offense a little bit. He definitely showed his cannon, and
definitely not his fault that they lost.
No,
defense up 45 to the Panthers.
Exactly, and he's slinging the rock. You just knew Drake London was down there somewhere and just was firing bullets off. So, I think, again, they're going to be pretty happy with Penix, and, that's going to be some tough conversations about Kirk Cousins and his contract, another guy that...
He's paid him big time. And exactly. It was 4 years as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a long contract. They potentially might want to move him.
Another team
eat a huge deal.
Another team will take that. You look at we don't want to get too draft heavy this pod, given it's 4 months away. But it's not like this draft class this year where we had 6 go in the top 12. You're probably going to get.
I don't know of 2.
Sanders and Ward will go in the top 3.
Yeah.
And then it's like,
who's going?
Where does Jalen Milroe go? Where does Quinn Ewers go? We may see 4 in the first round. But it's not going to be like this year where it was just bang, 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 bang. Yeah. But it's good for his career. It's good for the Panthers. They aren't the laughing stock of the comp. In fact, they're not even in the bottom 5, bottom 6 shit teams.
Yeah, well, the Saints finished same record or
just
under them. Yeah, exactly. But they're such a banged up team. Another team that potentially would be looking at quarterback with whether they want to keep Derek Carr or whether he's getting a bit older, get a bit more banged up, and that team's salary caps, they've been struggling for the last couple of years, so they'll see.
Today was the first game, again, Red Zone, I wasn't watching intently, but the first time where they were crossing to it, and I thought Spencer Rattler looked like a serviceable NFL quarterback. So, watch this space. It'll be interesting to see where they go next year.
Playoff wildcard games. Who you got? Run me through. Who you think's getting through?
I think the AFC, we should see the Bills and the Ravens take care of business. As much as I hate to say that to you, Sean, you're probably pretty realistic. It's going to be a hard thing for them to go into Buffalo and
did it last year, bro.
Win at Orchid Park. I think some advantages here is the Bills' defense has looked leaky at times. cold weather team going to cold weather team.
Yep.
As possible cold weather environment. And Bo Nix, we spoke about him earlier. The last month of football, you're starting to go from like this guy's a handy rookie to this guy is maybe in win mode.
Yeah.
I'll try and get some odds for this game.
Everything's gravy at this point for me, but I think what we're lucky with is Denver matches up really well with Buffalo, which goes back to my point that we played in Buffalo last year and beat them. In a really good competitive game. Some highlight catches from Sutton there, some deep balls from Russ. Like, I think defensively we can probably play well against their offense. They're not the same offense I had last year with Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis. Like, the receiving options have been really good for them, but they're not the big, elite names that they've had.
They don't have an elite wide receiver.
Yeah, and they've been
Khalil Shakir's been serviceable.
Yeah. They're very, very reliant on Josh Allen. So we'll see what he can do against a good defense that just set the record for sacks in a season. So,
does he get the record?
Yeah, they broke their own record because the 2015 Broncos had it. They had 59.
Was that Elvis Dumerville in those days?
Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah. So, they've just broken that record. And, getting 7 or 8 against Burrow last week, and they got another 5, I think, today. So, really helped put them over the top. But I think we match up really well there. I think it's then going to come down to, what's the difference between Denver's offense? Can they get enough points to, hopefully outdo a Josh Allen masterclass? Because that's kind of what you're expecting. You want to see, can Allen have, a really good game? Because last year he threw 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions against Denver. So, that as Denver fans, that's what gives you hope. Yes, you understand that, Josh Allen might be the MVP for a very good reason because he's carrying a lot of that offense on that side.
Yeah, and
so
once,
we'll see.
Once they get to the red zone, he's maybe the most devastating red zone threat. Yep. I suppose Jalen Hurts, once you get to the 2, is a different story. But like in that 20 to the 2, it's probably Josh Allen.
Exactly. Like if he's not throwing in a rocket, you just got to be worried that he's just going to pull
Take
it down
off and run over your safety.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or jump over him.
Yeah. Yeah. So, again, I think we match up really well. I think it'll be more of a competitive game than people think. Like, I don't think they'll blow them out 40 points, that kind of thing. I think it'll be a bit competitive. It's going to be cold there in Buffalo. So, we'll see how that plays out.
$1.20 for the Buffalo Bills, the Broncos $4.60. We are going a little bit out of order. We'll do our teams first, and then we'll roll back into the other games. Jumping over to the NFC, the other 2 versus 7. Both of our teams 7 seeds, so kind of happy to be here. Anything else is gravy.
How did Monk's team end up being the 3rd seed? And they had the worst record. What is this?
It's crazy. So that's interesting. Yeah. So Washington's playing the Bucks. So I said before it might have been the Rams. So Green Bay would have got the Bucks with a win today. Yep.
Again, you probably prefer that over Eagles.
Yep, definitely. Anyways, got to go and win. They had to go to the Cowboys and win last year and smack them in their own stadium. A bit of a different probably scenario this year. It's stopping that Philadelphia offense that's now better with Saquon at the helm is going to be hard. Jordan Love coming off that looks like ulnar nerve stinger is going to be difficult. Our running game's pretty good as well. Josh Jacobs has been great. Receiving options, obviously we don't have an AJ Brown, but can spread the ball around and have serviceable receivers. And the defense has actually been sneaky good as well for the Packers. Turn the ball over a lot. Xavier McKinney finished 2nd for intercepts.
Is Alexander hurt?
Jair. I think he's going to be good to go.
Okay.
I believe he's going to be good to go there. Because that's a massive out if Jair Alexander.
So who are you picking to win this game?
I'll say the Eagles. I
just pick the Packers. Give me an out. Because you can pick Packers because I'm going to get Eagles, and then I'll go pick Denver, and you can pick Buffalo.
I think rationally, it's pretty hard to say that the Packers go out there and upset them. There's this was the first game of the year back in the Brazil game to start off the season.
Yep, very different.
And it was a pretty good game. Jordan Love was a bit gunslingy in that game. A few turnovers. He did throw a fair few intercepts this year. They're going to have to protect the ball. They're going to have to play good defense. But yeah, I'll be a bit of a offensive. Yeah, I'll go there. I'll go the Eagles. Yeah. They're paying $1.43. The Packers $2.93.
Yeah, I like the Eagles a lot in this. back to my previous point, I think there's a better case for Denver beating Buffalo than there is for the Packers beating Eagles.
Yeah, interesting.
I think the Eagles are
a
complete team, whereas I think there's gaps in Buffalo, and they're very much carried by Allen. Like, I can see an upset in that game based on the teams.
Well, I actually reckon the Ravens are scarier than the Bills. Let's go.
I agree. I think they'll walk through the Steelers. I think that's an easy one. I think they'll beat the Steelers quite handily.
Ravens $1.20 in that game. Pittsburgh $4.85. That's the late Saturday game, so that'll be good viewing over here in Australia. The early Saturday game is the Texans and Chargers. The Chargers actually go in as $1.60 favourites.
I think
$2.40 outsiders at home. The Texans.
Yeah, I think the Texans kind of been up and down the last month, whereas I think the Chargers have kind of hitting the straps. They're in the kind of right momentum. I'm thinking the Chargers get through this game. We'll have to go and face the Chiefs.
Yeah, I might go the Texans here. I think they've got less pressure on them than what they did this time last year. I've been saying they're fake all year. I will need something to just not back favourites here. Obviously, the Chargers got a lot going for them. Herbert's been playing really good, barely turning the ball over at all, and their defense is really fucking good. But maybe, Stroud, maybe with the less weight of the world on his shoulders, maybe slightly less expectation, maybe they can get the job done at home.
Yep. So I'm thinking Chargers will win this game. Kansas City will beat them, go to the Super Bowl. I think the Ravens will beat Steelers. I think Denver will be the upset against Bills, get beat probably by the Ravens, and then it'll be a Ravens Chiefs AFC playoff. I think I'm going to want to be more fun. I'm going to say the Ravens win that game and go through a Super Bowl.
I'm going to go Texans beat the Chargers, then get belted by the Chiefs. Not belted, but just put away by the Chiefs. Yeah, but probably by a touchdown. I'll say the Ravens do things pretty handedly, and the Bills get the win, but maybe a little bit closer than people expect. And then I'll go Ravens to beat the Bills. We'll have the same AFC Championship matchup, and then I'll say I've seen this movie before. It's scripted. The Chiefs win, but I actually think that the Ravens have the best chance that they've had in recent
I hope they do.
I think most of America and football fans around the world will want someone else other than the Chiefs. But yeah, it's all going to play out the next month.
Yeah. On the flip side, what are you feeling?
So we haven't spoken about Bucks and Commanders. These two games are pretty spicy.
Yep.
Bucks at home against the Commanders. The Commanders have a better record, but obviously finished second in the NFC East behind the Eagles, which means they'll have to travel. Yep. Do they start as favourites? No, they don't. $1.53 for the Bucks. $2.60 is some value there for the Washington Commanders. Baker has had the season of a lifetime. He's also been to playoffs and won in playoff. I think they beat the Eagles last year. Yep. Has won playoff games before. Obviously, this is going to be the first playoff game for Jaden Daniels. He's got the supporting crew around him. I think this one has the feelings of shootout.
Yeah. Big thing in this is Lattimore got traded to Commanders from the Saints. So you get Mike Evans and Lattimore again.
Do you think you should be allowed to do that? Because it's past trade window.
No. So this trade happened before the trade window. So before the deadline. It's just Lattimore I think's been out for a fair bit because he got traded from Saints. We're dealing with a hamstring injury.
Okay, so he's been sitting and doing his rehab.
But I think a lot of people kind of forgot that this trade happened. I'm going to give you the out there.
Yeah, myself.
But I think he's been playing the last couple of weeks. So and we might get another edition of Mike Evans, Lattimore going back and forth. Yeah. So I'm going to go the upset here with Daniels. And I think this will probably be like a high-scoring game, like in the 30s for both teams. I'm not a huge fan of either of their defenses. I think they're serviceable, but yeah, I think their offense is where they got them to. So I'm going to say Washington go through, Eagles go through, then Eagles win to go to one side of that. And then, like you said, Rams-Vikings also very, very fun. Like Rams had a slow start season and they've been pretty good.
Healthy.
And they get healthy. I think it's a big thing.
And they got a guy that's won the Super Bowl there at the helm.
So I'm now worried after the performance they put in today.
From the Vikes?
From the Vikes, yeah. And can Sam Darnold shit the bed in 2 weeks in a row? I hope not. Again, I think it's competitive. I want to say Vikings, but yeah, I'm going to say Vikings because I'm just not sure. Again, going to that defense, I'm just not sure the Rams defense has been up to snuff. especially hasn't in the post-Aaron Donald era. And I just think the Vikings may be too hot. But again, I think whoever wins that gets put to the sword by the Lions. Yeah, Lions, Eagles, championship, and I'm going to go for a Lions, Ravens Super Bowl, which I think is what I said at the start of the year and which I said last year. Maybe it happened at some point.
We'll see.
So.
I'll go the Rams getting the home win against the Vikings. I think they look pretty ordinary today. You get $2.14 for the Rams.
Don't hate it.
$1.75 for the Vikes. I still think they'll go to Ford Field and lose. To Detroit, that gets Detroit on one side. I was a turncoat with the Packers and went the Eagles going through. And the Eagles avenged their loss last year in the playoffs and beat the Bucks to face the Lions in the NFC Championship game. But the Lions go through and we get a Lions-Chiefs Super Bowl.
Yep.
We spoke about MVP. We spoke about Offensive Player of the Year. Defensive Player of the Year.
Very interesting.
So you've seen a fair bit of Pat Surtain this year.
Mm-hmm.
Has he sort of emulated Champ Bailey shutdown kind of stuff? Blokes not passing to that side of the field.
In the 24 in the Champ Bailey?
Yeah.
For that reason?
Because his numbers aren't spectacular. He's the real sort of shutdown sort of.
Yeah, he's had
type.
4 intercepts and enough tackles, but that's not what you're writing home about. You're writing home about the fact that all these big names didn't get anything on him. Like Lamar Chase had a pretty good. Jamar, sorry. Jamar Chase had a pretty good game against Denver, and Higgins killed Riley Moss, but in coverage he only had 2 receptions and 14 yards against Patrick Surtain. Teams look away from him for very good reasons. And
does he stay on his side of the field or does he follow guys?
Both. Depends on the game plan, and I think I'd prefer him to follow more than he does. Again, it's 50-50. Like in this, he started off in that Chase example. He started following Chase, then they rotated it a little bit, and then he played one side. I guess because Higgins was playing really well against Riley coming back from a knee injury, Riley Moss, and then they went a bit more man, and then they kind of try to rotate that system to try and buy them enough time to get that pass rush home. So I think he's been pretty good in both aspects, but when he's faced when the guy lining up and across from him has been essentially deleted. So he's been unreal in that regard for most of the year.
I agree. TJ Watt's numbers, again, comparing to himself doesn't really...
he's not the... Hendrickson
from
Hendrickson
Bengals
topped the sack numbers for 17.5 because he got 3.5, I think, today or something like that. So I know when I looked at the odds, it's Surtain is the favourite with TJ Watt is second, but Surtain probably doesn't get the media recognition that TJ does, but TJ's numbers are significantly down. Myles Garrett really hasn't done that too much. I honestly really like Benito as a sneaky in here. He has only had 13.5 sacks, but he also has had 2 touchdowns this year, which not many of the other defensive guys can talk about coming in this as well. 2 long ones as well. So, you add that in a little bit. But, Watt's numbers at 11.5 sacks. He's second favourite in the odds, but I just don't think it's...
His numbers don't back it up, and it's not all about numbers. Hendrickson should get more spoken about. He
I agree.
Leads the sack count or finishes 3.5 clear of Garrett.
Mainly from today, but...
Sure, but he still had 7.5, which is, sort of defensive player of the year kind of type numbers. Not big in the turnover game, I suppose. 2 forced fumbles, didn't recover any, didn't score any touchdowns. I might go with Surtain there. And then I don't...
Click on the intercepts for us. See.
It was the Detroit guy finished with 9, I think. That's pass deflections. Kirby Joseph finished with 9. Xavier McKinney had 8. He had like that pretty much halfway through the season. So quarterbacks must have stopped throwing his way. And then Marlon Humphrey, CJ Gardner-Johnson, Byron Murphy finishing with 6 there.
Yeah, that's not...
Did anyone score 3? Van Ginkel from
got 2 intercepts.
Had 2 touchdowns from Minnesota, but the rest of he's had 11.5 sacks. I don't think he's winning the Defensive Player of the Year.
Click on the fumble touchdowns, the last one. No, you can't do that one.
It's not going to let me sort by that. See that big bopper from the Ravens get the intercept and then try and do the slide and nearly blow out his knee slide.
He was saying, which was funny because he said in the post match that he was talking about, it's like, I didn't want to. I've seen the other big boys. I didn't want to become a meme like all the other ones. But it was like, yeah, your slide here just blew your knees out.
So, you're probably going to become a meme.
Yeah,
but good on you, big fella, dropping back in coverage and getting the pick there.
Yeah. So I think for Defensive Player of the Year, like, I don't think there's any other great options. It's like no one really blowing the doors off like we've had in previous years. There's no like, hey, this guy's had 10 intercepts plus this year, plus a bunch of, defensive touchdowns versus, the 20 plus sacks. I think Sertan's just been so good coverage wise, and his coverage grade and his QBR, like the passing grade against him is so low that it's he's been is why he's the favourite. But yeah.
And Jared Verse is pretty much unbackable, I think, for Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
Interesting.
You've scrolled that.
Yeah. So TJ Watt's still there as pretty short favourite. Kirby Joseph is thereabouts. Van Ginkel. So
he's not even in that list. He's definitely in that thing.
I don't know why he's not in that list.
Yeah, he's minus 200 on that.
Okay, so he's the favourite.
He's the favourite.
It's two horse race.
Yeah.
Sertan versus Watt.
But having said that, he's had 6 fumbles and 11 sacks, but he's just, again, to his lofty standards, it's a down year. So
it's really flip of the coin according to the bookies with Sertan and Watt, and then if you wanted value, it'd be Kirby Joseph, Andrew Van Ginkel, Myles Garrett. Sweet. That'll do us, I think, for the NFL.
Yep.
Big wildcard weekend next week, and then we might be back in a couple of weeks to talk about divisional rounds.
Yep.
It's a quick season, but a lot happens. It moves very quickly, obviously, with 32 teams playing, and it seems like a week in football. The amount of stories, the amount of things that happen, it's incredible. So it's a great time of the year for football fans worldwide. That's for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
Curry sets, fires, puts it up, bang!
And Christmas time, New Year, NFL going into playoffs means the NBA is starting to heat up, I think. Cavs are looking really good in the East. They're still $6 behind the Celtics. They're at $1.80 to win the East. But they've won 10 in a row. They haven't lost a game since the last pod.
Yep.
Still not getting the respect I don't think that they deserve from the bookies.
Yeah, 100% agree.
And I think they match up reasonably well with the Celtics. Celtics have actually had a little slide. They're 6-5 since our last pod. When their 3-point shooting is on, they're incredible. We spoke about how they hadn't scored less than 107 points last pod. They've had a few in the 90s this past fortnight. And SGA actually gave him a bit of a touch-up yesterday. So we'll talk about him in a second when we get to the West and some MVP chat. But still Celtics very short to win the East. They're there or thereabouts. The Knicks, 24-12. They're $6 to win the East. They've found something here with Cat, and the T-Wolves kind of struggling without Cat.
Yep.
Probably plays into them winning that trade so far. Cat's actually
got rid of the wrong tool.
Possibly, yeah. Gobert's been a bit, how you going? Cat averaging 25 points, 14 boards. He leads the league in boards, and Jalen Brunson doing his thing, averaging 25 points per game. Magic, $15 to win the East. They're fourth, 21-16. Paolo Banchero should be back, I think, this week. And Franz Wagner still be a little while off. So without both of their star players still being able to sort of be serviceable, it'd be interesting when they're completely healthy.
Yep.
Bucks, they won the NBA Cup. We spoke about NBA Cup going into semis last pod. They win against OKC, and we actually saw some defense get played in the game that sort of meant something.
Once it matters.
Something to someone. They won that 97-81. I'd be surprised if that's our NBA Finals. But
what was the 3-point shooting like in that game?
It was they're actually getting pressured from beyond the arc, which seems to be the way that the NBA is going. We've seen when it works well and the Celtics are on, you're like, wow, this is kind of fun to watch. And then when it's horrendous and there's Bruce getting thrown up, you're like, fuck, this is pretty ordinary view on.
Yeah, I know that. I don't want to go too deep into the conversation about viewership and.
What we're saying is down like 25% on last year.
Yeah, and it's a big drop off over the last decade as well. But the number I wanted to throw out was NBA Christmas. They talk about LeBron's comment that because there was the Netflix. We talked about Netflix doing the Tyson Paul, and then they had the 2 NFL games, and they were trying to get all that stuff ready for that. And then that was going directly head-to-head with the 4 NBA games. Those 4 NBA games average around 5 mil, and LeBron had the comment that, Christmas days for the NBA. Though I think both NFL games averaged about 40 mil. So they got blown out of the water in comparison to the
And they don't
viewership.
normally do that, do they, the NFL with the Christmas Day games? But they're like, fuck, this is it's a market. It's,
Yeah.
everyone,
Netflix has given us fuckloads of money, and they
let's
want
do it.
to go to streaming. Like, let's do it. And it just shows the dominant beast that the NFL, that the football is in America.
Football is definitely king. I know for myself, the NFL's my number one US sport in terms of interest, and then the NBA, my interest definitely peaks post Super Bowl as we lead into the playoffs, and then once we're into playoffs, I'm fucking living and breathing the NBA.
Agree.
But yeah, it is hard in an 82 game season to be super enthused, I think, in October, November.
Yeah.
Other than the fact that there's basketball back.
Yeah, and I get the viewing's probably not as great as well, where there's less defense and you're throwing up 3-point shots left, right, and center, and you're shooting at 40%. And
Yeah, 40's good. If there's teams
that's good. Like, yeah,
teams going out shooting at 25, and you're like, fuck this.
it's just back and forth.
It just
Like,
sucks,
just airball. The other team gets it. It goes down the other end, tries it again, and then rinse and repeat. It's just the viewing is not great. So it's as we get to the point in the season, we play more defense. You get a bit more harder basketball. I think is definitely is where the viewership picks up. So. Yeah, I'm not sure what NBA is going to do. Well, that's why they've done the NBA Cup. That's why they're trying to boost the ratings in this first half of the year, because they know they struggle, especially going head-to-head with the football.
Something that will spark a lot of interest is this. Jimmy Butler. So Heat sits 6th in the East. They're $31 to win the East, tick over 500. He has pretty much given up on the Heat.
Done a Antonio Brown or Tyreek Hill, if you will.
Yeah.
Rosemary.
Was sort of just jogging up and down the court. And
I'm just here collecting a paycheck.
pretty much. Got suspended by the Heat themselves, not even by the league. 7 games. Conduct detrimental to the team. That will cost him $2.5 million, which by his standards probably not a whole lot of money. Said he's lost joy in playing in Miami. There's no one that's taken the forefront in gobbling him up. It's looking like Mavs, maybe Warriors. Knicks, I think, is fun. I think the Knicks, he could really be a missing piece. They've got their big in Cat. They've got their point guard in Jalen Brunson. Imagine a mid-sized guy coming in that can shoot the
Especially that pedigree and
he can shoot a jumper or attacking the
experience.
paint. I think it might be an interesting fit there. So watch how that plays out.
I think from what I've read, that Jimmy B is pretty disappointed in the fact that Miami didn't do anything. Like they've had they made the finals. And then
Which is doing something.
Probably you're thinking like, a piece away. And then the following year didn't really add anything. Following like this off season, really haven't done anything. Haven't gone out to support Jimmy B with bringing in anyone else. So, and he's, seeing other teams do that, go out and get guys that, trying to create, you kind of need like 3 guys, like your big 3. And he hasn't seen that. So I think he's disappointed the Heat haven't supported him to try and get the best out of the remainder of his career, essentially. He's good years at the moment because he's, 35 now. Like he does have long left. He's not happy with that, so he wants out. They haven't really placated that, so he's showing it on the court with his frustrations, and they've now suspended him, and then hopefully they'll sort something out, and both clubs can end up being happy with whatever happens.
That'll be all the noise, I think, in terms of trades in the next week or two in the NBA.
All the ones you listed there is fun. Hands up the Warriors, fun. Nuggets, fun. Mavs, fun. Grizz, Knicks, all fun.
Grizz is in the list there too. The Grizz sitting second, I think, in the West, third in the West. That could be a bit of fun going over there and helping with Ja.
Yep.
It's a shame that, obviously this is the way that professional sports work. We spoke just about Tyreek Hill not an hour ago, the number 1 player in football a year ago, and things move pretty quickly, don't they?
Yeah, especially when you're in your 30s at that point. You know you're on your back end of your career. You've made your big money. You're probably not looking for big contracts. Now it's a little bit more like I want to win, legacy, and that sort of stuff.
Hawks are 500. The Great Barrier Thief, Dyson Daniels, is over the 100 mark for steals, 102, averaging 3.2 a game. That's still...
Won't get that record, though, I don't think.
No, we looked at
average.
this. Yeah, we looked at this a few weeks ago.
I think he needs to bump that over 4.
He's going to get this. He's going to get the most steals, provided he doesn't get hurt, from a total number in the last 20 years, if he keeps up on this pace. So that in itself is amazing. And he's averaging a whole steal more than Tyrese Maxey a game, which is incredible. Pace is also 500. They're actually 2-1 against the Celtics this season. They won at Boston a couple nights ago. Tyrese picked up a little bit on where he was earlier in the year. Pistons 17 and 18. They're 7-3 since the last pod. It's about the highest I can remember the Pistons being in quite some time.
Yep.
If they're
not on the bottom, so
yeah. Well, if they're in there or thereabouts for play in, that's a good achievement, I think, for them, and definitely Cade Cunningham's team at the moment. Although Jaden Ivey is a pretty good big as well. Bulls 16 and 19. Giddy's averaging 12, 7 and 7. He's starting every game. Looks to have really sort of settled into his new team after the divorce from the Thunder. 76ers. They're not lying through them just yet.
Not yet.
Okay, 14 and 19. 7 and 4 since the last pod. Embiid's been playing more regularly. He's had a few 30-point games.
Some good numbers.
Some of the locker room sort of tension may have settled with a little bit of the winning because they're definitely in a better spot now than they were a few weeks ago.
Agreed.
They've still dug themselves a big hole.
Yep.
Pen comes out. It's 2025. We're after the Christmas New Year period. Nets, Raptors, Hornets, Wizards. Done. Start thinking about the draft. You hate to see the Hornets. They've lost 10 in a row. They've been really bad without LaMelo. Raptors, Wizards, well, pretty ordinary. Nets could possibly make the play-in, but I don't see it happening.
What do you think they should do with Ben Simmons?
This is interesting. I was seeing some of those like cold take videos, and some of the shock jock type ESPN characters saying that he's going to have a better career than LeBron after his rookie year. Was NBA Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
I think they probably need to move him end of the year. I think he plays out. He's still getting some dimes, and he's playing, and he's healthy. That for him is success over the last 2 years.
Yep.
But yeah, I think he gets moved on come season end.
Can you go to the top of that list? Because I'm not going to maybe dish out as many more lines, but I kind of feel like it's very top heavy with Cavs and Celtics. Mm-hmm. I'm just not a huge fan of anyone else in that. Maybe Knicks, but then the rest of that probably not. And
I think the Bucks could get their shit together. They've got Giannis.
Well, I was going to say I think 76ers MLS might be a team that has started to get their shit together and can move up that list and be more and maybe be fourth by the time the season's over. But I don't feel as worried if I had to go up against them versus the teams on the other side.
And what are we getting the texter out for? Are we getting the texter out for playing playoffs or winning the NBA as well? Because if that's the case, we can get the texter out for, let's say, 12 teams.
Yeah, but I'm thinking who's going to win it. Yeah, I'm thinking Cavs, Celtics, and maybe Knicks.
Knicks or Bucks could. I think.
Yeah, Knicks or Bucks could, and if the 76ers get their shit together, yeah. But the rest of them, no, I don't.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable statement. I think the Magic, as good as they've been playing, aren't winning the NBA or winning the Eastern Championship. Hawks, Pacers, Pistons in that middle. There, none of them are
making up numbers.
No, so I'm getting the texter out to talk about playoff basketball. I think playing playoff basketball would be not just play in, but making the final 8. Say for a team like the Pistons, that's been historically shit for the last
for ages,
5+ years. That's a really good achievement. So I'm happy to talk about them. Maybe getting in as a 7th seed or something like that.
But we don't see them.
They're not. No, they're not going to win these.
Yeah.
No, I think really it's Celtics and Cavs, and then let's mix in maybe the Knicks and the Bucks.
Yeah.
I don't even think the 76. I think they've got too much.
They've got a lot of work to do.
Much work to do.
I can see that they could potentially do it, but they've got a lot of work to do to get there. Whereas I guess my point being is the West, I think you've got more.
Yeah, I've actually put odds in for more teams.
Yeah. I think it's we've talked about the competitiveness, but yeah, I think there's just the talent-wise seems very heavy on the West.
It seems like the AFC and the NFC in the NFL a little bit, maybe more pronounced in basketball, with the AFC being like the East and the NFC being like the West. Yep. I suppose the Celtics and the Chiefs might be your comparison there. And then, I don't think it's a really good comparison because Ravens and Bills probably better than some of those basketball teams. Yeah. But yeah, the West is fun. There's so many teams.
You've gone down to 10 there for odds. So.
Yeah, I've gone down to 10. Spurs, just because they're 8th, I chucked them in there at 101 to 1 to win the West. The Thunder, we need to start talking about them on the same level as the Celtics, given that they dished them the other night. SGA is under $2 for the MVP. They're $2.50 to win the whole West, and they haven't lost since the last pod. And going back further than that, they're on a 15-game win streak. They've got some tools back. They're really separating themselves. They're 7 games ahead of 2 and 3.
Yep, agree.
So from now, anything less than a 1 or 2 seed is a failure really from where they are at the moment.
Yep.
And it makes you wonder what they could do when Chet's healthy. Rockets, Grizzlies, the 2 and the 3. Rockets $18 to win the West. Grizzlies $12 to win the West. Jaren Jackson's pretty good. Jar's pretty good. Again, like we were talking about, they've got a good point. They've got a good big. Mm-hmm. Maybe a good place for a Jimmy Butler to end up. I don't see him ending up there, but would be fun. Mm-hmm. Nuggets have got the best player in basketball over the last few years, and again, but going back to like the Lamar chat as well.
Second favourite for MVP, I'm assuming?
Second favourite, totals 40. This is an average line, 31, 13, and 10.
Triple-double.
He's averaging a big triple-double. Like, he had one the other day where he had like 38 points and 24 rebounds or something, and still had the 10 assists. He's a freak, man. Really should be him MVP every year. But
I 100% agree with your point. I was thinking the exact same thing. Is it's like he's just going to get the bias that he won last year, and SGA is having a great year. Like
that, I think that happened to LeBron back in the day too. Like there was an argument where it was like you could just give LeBron the MVP every year, and then they maybe and. I don't know if it's like a conscious thing or if it's just the voters and like people get bored in their own mind and like it's like the new shiny thing kind of thing.
Yeah, people hate dynasties. Like
or you like it for a bit. Like when like Mahomes is like throwing passes at like 90 degrees and you're like holy fuck like
but you're like I've seen this movie already.
Yeah, and I think again jumping back to the NFL with the whole Taylor Swift, coming into things and it's like. Yeah, it's like a commercial juggernaut. I think the rest of the fans start getting the shits.
Yep.
I don't know how we got to Taylor Swift from Joker. Pretty much polar opposites, I would say. But yeah, they're $7.50 to win the West, and it's still very good basketball.
Still very good.
Then it starts to sort of get a little bit longer in the odds, although the Mavs, they're in 7th, $7.50. Mm-hmm. Lakers and Clippers are 15 and 21 apiece. Kawhi returned his first game of the year. It's just been listed as right knee inflammation. I hope he's not dealing with some early arthritis there. Probably need to do a bit more reading into actually what's going on with Kawhi's body. Hasn't really been himself since the Raptors or even maybe the Spurs days, back in the day.
He had 1 or 2 good years with the Clippers, but he's kind of been in and out.
Yeah, I was having a look the other day. He hasn't played more than 65 games with the Clippers. So 65 is the cutoff for awards. Yep. So I don't think he's played more than that. Mm-hmm. Warriors are sliding. So they're still $12 to win the West, but they've gone from like top 2 to 9th.
Yep.
So them and Suns in a similar sort of boat. Suns worse even. They're 15 and 18. They've only won 1 game.
Got a lot of names, but just not
man. And it's like you don't want to fall too far behind in the West. Like we're talking about the 76ers in the East, and they might have too much to do. It's even harder to do that climb in the West. Yep. Big talking point around Ant Edwards. Looks visibly frustrated. They're definitely missing Cat. Rudy Gobert's not giving them much on offense. His defensive work is down. Yeah.
He generally doesn't give you much on offense, but defensive work. Lesser than usual. Yeah, but his defense work is what he makes up for the difference. But
but he's not like going out getting 15 boards a night and blocking and doing all the shit that he used to do. So might be interesting. I don't know if Ant's going to actually get traded, but it'll spark a bit of
No, I think the
debate.
Wolves would be doing the opposite and trying to bring in someone to
Help.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rudy might go.
Yeah.
Uh,
You did jump over the Spurs, I think, as well. I think
Yeah,
Wembley's been a freak as usual, averaging 4 blocks a game.
so second is Walker Kessler at Utah, who has 2.6.
Yeah.
So his gap from Walker is even more than the Great Barrier Thieves in the steals department from Tyrese Maxey.
Yeah.
He's a freak. He's a generational talent. I don't think we're obviously just repeating ourselves here.
Yeah, I think that team's still kind of very
They
much
need
built-
one. They need one more thing.
Exactly. They're very much reliant on him, and that's why they're kind of just sitting above 500 at the moment.
Yeah.
If they want to, it's probably not this year, but if they want to take another step in the following year, they need to keep adding the pieces around him.
You see, he did a jersey swap with a kid who was wearing a Wemby jersey, and the amount of fabric in his jersey compared to the kids, incredible photo. And then get the texter out, lines through, Trailblazers, Jazz, Pelicans. None of them are playing playoff basketball.
What do you think of the Kings?
Yeah, they're fun. They're fun.
They've kind of had a fall off compared to last year.
Sure.
They're not beaming me up as much.
No, let's beam me up, Scotty. Their big three are all averaging 20 plus. Mm-hmm. So Fox, DeRozan, Sabonis are all over 20. They just consistencies being a real issue.
Yeah.
I think as long as they're
not the far out. Like it's one game. So
yeah, exactly. As long as they're in play in contention, they could go on a little bit of a run. But the West is just so hard.
Yeah,
like
a lot of those teams could end up winning.
Yeah, the Kings aren't going to win the West. They might get through the second round, but I don't think they're going to win the West. Teams that can legitimately win the West, I would say Thunder, Nugs, Mavs.
I'd go Lakers purely on experience.
Yeah,
but I just again
storyline as well.
Yeah, but I still think they're too old of a team at this point. Well,
and I don't
they're
know.
Very old at one spot.
And the Rockets and the Grizz in 2 and 3. Yeah, I don't see it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see them winning. I think they're going to do really well, and they're like another team that needs the experience, and maybe it's next year. But if I'm going for guys that have been there and they've gone deep and really fought hard, then I agree with you 100%.
But it's starting to heat up. We'll have about a month away till All-Star break. And then obviously, come March, April, when games really start to matter in terms of playoff and play-in implications, it gets real interesting. And then actually the last little bit in the NBA can be a bit of a snooze while you're waiting for the playoffs because there's lots of load management and altered minutes and
not tanking
occurring. But it's going into a fun sort of period.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's wrap this bitch up with a final round. Big UFC 311. It's 2 weeks away. We'll have a quick look.
Best pay-per-view for the year.
Yeah, a few tongue twisters to finish the pod. Lightweight, we've got the champ and pound for pound champ, I believe, as well. Islam Makhachev taking on Arman Sarukian. And then bantamweight, this is also for a belt, is Merab Dvalishvili taking on Umar Nurmagomedov. Hope it went all right there. What are our thoughts here? How much do you know about Arman? And can anyone knock off Islam, do you think? Can he?
All you can hear, though, is wrestling. Wrestling. So, it's going to be, I'm assuming... It'd be wild if they go out in 2 first-round knockouts within minutes. But I think I think they're going to be grappling exchanges. I can't remember if Islam's one loss is to Amar. You might want to check that.
Okay. Nice. That's 5 years ago. Well done.
So who have you got there? So no, he actually lost to Islam. So he's
so they've fought. Sorry, yeah.
They have fought before, but it was 5 years ago. So there has been talk about the differences in wrestling and who's the better, etc. Of that. But it's going to be so tough. You saw the development, you saw the improvement that Islam had on his previous. He just got knocked out way a long time ago. So he did.
Adriano Martins is the only man who has ever beaten Islam. Knocked him out. Yeah.
But you just see the development and improvement that Islam has been making. And it's just so hard to go past him.
Yeah.
So it'll be, this is a rematch for Aman, and we'll just have to see if he can close that gap. But I just think Islam's just too good at this stage.
I agree. He did look human in the Poirier fight. It was a war after, he made pretty light work of Volk in that rematch. Obviously, Volk coming in underdone probably didn't help there. I'm going to try and get some odds for this. I imagine that Islam is a relatively short favourite, but you never know. You might maybe talk about Marab for a sec because I'm going to have to.
Yeah, well, it's essentially the same conversation. So Marab is a dominant wrestler with unreal cardio, and he's going up against another Dagestani that has a huge background and another undefeated record. So you wonder if that level of competition is too much of a step up, and can he close the gap to the champion? And it's going to be a real challenge. But again, it just depends on who takes the grappling, and you never know with the Dagestanis. They just could be another freak.
Well, he's actually a short favourite.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. So the undefeated record is definitely enticing the bookies there for Umar Nurmagomedov, $1.30 taking on Marab.
Can you just check his history for me? I believe he's just come straight from Bellator. I'm not sure if he's actually fought in the UFC. Or maybe he's fought once. Check that out. Trying to remember.
I feel like he's fought at least one.
No, he's fought a bunch.
Heaps.
Yeah. He's probably thinking it was Mun then.
His brother is a fighter as well. Is that correct?
He's and probably even has it listed there where he's related to a cousin of Khabib. Yeah, and he's the older brother of Bellator champion Usman.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Usman is the one that is still in Bellator and may come across. Is that correct?
Yeah, he's the one that's got drug issues at the moment.
Okay.
With the old spicy sauce.
Spicy sauce. So Umar Nurmagomedov is undefeated,
18.
has UFC wins against Sandhagen, Barcelos.
Probably his biggest one.
And he's $1.30 to win.
He's getting fast-tracked very quickly through this division, and he comes with that name value.
Yeah, but name value, name pressure as well for him.
Yes, yeah. But if he's not like he's going up against, say, Sean O'Malley that doesn't have that sort of wrestling pedigree. Like Emre is very good as well. Marab, sorry. Marab is very good as well. And, it'll be interesting if that kind of nullifies that at all and we get more of a stand-up fight than you expect.
Islam's $1.25 in his one. Aman Sarukian is $3.95. Some interesting weights. Interesting fights, I should say, in the sort of mid-main card. At light heavyweight, Yuri Prohaska taking on Jamal Hill, both former champs.
Both knocked out by Alex Pereira.
And both at $1.90 in this fight.
Yeah. I think it's a pretty close fight. These guys never actually fought because of injuries to each of them while they were champions.
Yep.
So, they
Did Jamal do his Achilles? Was that his injury?
ACL, I think. Because I think it was shoulder for Ure and Prohaska, and Hill was ACL.
Achilles.
Achilles?
Yeah.
Better memory.
Achilles. So has the loss against Pereira, but then actually ran through a bunch of big light heavyweight names. Glover Teixeira, which was to win the belt. Tago Santos, Johnny Walker, Jimmy
so he injured it, vacated it. Teixeira won it and then lost it to Uri. And then they were going to fight, I think, and then Uri did his shoulder. I think he did shoulder.
I'll follow that up as well.
For history. But, it's good to see them. I probably want Hill to lose.
Really? Why?
Just because I think Yuri's a better fighter.
He's cool as well. Like the whole samurai, top knot kind of stuff plays into things. Yeah, it just says right shoulder injury there, which for someone who has a lot of power in that right arm is probably not a good injury to have. When you look at his losses, he's been beaten twice by Pereira, and then since then it's just all green for Yuri Prohaska. So it'd be interesting match up here.
It's pretty much they're 2 and 3 at the moment. It's probably like a next title contender potentially for the winner. I don't think you want to see Prohaska go up against Alex Pereira again.
After being KO'd twice
badly. But just over Jamal Hill, I think he'll get the job done.
At lightweight, Benil Dariush takes on Renato Moicano.
Fun.
Middleweight, Kevin Holland takes on Renier De Ridder. It's a deep card.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's a good card to start the year. Darish is getting a bit old, and he's got a very young up and comer coming to get him. So I just don't think his style matches up that well. I think he might struggle because he's very much a grappler, ground fighter. So we'll see how that plays out.
We've just tagged it on here at the end of the final round is the EPL. My laptop's on 2%, so we'll just run through this quickly. United and Liverpool actually played out a draw. Last night, which was good because United were actually starting to talk seriously about maybe dropping into a relegation zone.
Yes.
I think luckily there's a few other teams that have been shit enough to not have to worry about it. But United's season's pretty ordinary. Tottenham's season looking pretty ordinary as well. Have been absolutely bashed through injury.
Yep.
Andrew's given the reporters absolutely nothing. I think they just kept asking the same question, and he kept saying,
Are you getting sacked?
No, well, he was asking about their performance against Newcastle, and Andrew just kept saying, all things equal and balanced, we win that game. And the reporter kept saying, what do you mean by that? All things equal and balanced, we win that game. So he's having a crack at either the refs or the injuries or life in general.
Yeah, the whole lot of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's a fair square, both starting squads, all healthy, etc., we win.
Maybe it is a different story, but United,
Newcastle though have won 5 straight. So
yeah, they're on the brink of playing Champions League, and
I'm actually pretty impressed with Not Forest up there.
Mate, incredible. So Not Forest hanging around. They're 37. They're only 3 points behind Arsenal. They've actually got a game in hand after Arsenal sort of shit the bed overnight. Let's run through top bottom. Liverpool, despite dropping 2 points overnight against United, still well clear of Arsenal. 46 points to 40.
Do you think it's between the two of them now?
Yeah, I'd say so. I don't think Not Forest are winning the Premier League. Chelsea, you never know. They're 36.
It's 10 points.
Newcastle back. 35. Despite essentially playing their worst football in the last sort of 6+ years, Man City still hanging on at 6th, 34.
Haaland for the first time I think in ages is not the leading goal scorer.
Yeah, Mo Salah
taken over.
Oh, money. He's probably the best player in the Premier League at the moment. Oh, Mo Salah. A little bit of a regression for Haaland, but obviously losing Rodri and KDB not being healthy for a lot of games probably plays into that. I think
it's a City regression more than just on him.
It's refreshing, if I'm being completely honest. That's coming from a disgruntled United fan.
Yeah, I love seeing Newcastle and Not Forest up there in the top 5.
Bournemouth 7, Aston Villa 8, Fulham 9, Brighton 10. Like, it's good for the Premier
League. In there, it's good.
Brentford, and then we get to these small little known clubs called Tottenham, Man United 12-13. So United 23, West Ham 23, Palace 21. Everton, Wolves are actually in danger, 17 and 16. Ipswich 16, Leicester 14, Southampton put a line through them. They're going down. They're on 6.
Yeah, it's not looking good for Leicester City there either.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
Lost the last 5 straight.
Now, City could still face some sort of sanctions regarding their charges and indictments, yada, yada. So when you look at the odds, they're actually higher than, say, United and Tottenham for getting relegated. I don't think it's going to happen, but it still could. Yeah. That'll do us. I think my laptop's about to die. It is a weeknight. EPL will also start to heat up as we get closer, and hopefully, like the last few seasons, goes right down to the wire.
Yeah, I think Pakistan had a few wickets, but they have stabilised in this test match a little bit. But I think they've still got about another 100 to even.
Trail 93, but big partnership here for Pakistan. 3 for 328, making a game of it over there in South Africa.
Still about 100 short to
Safas,
at least get a lead.
We'll keep an eye on you because we'll see you in 6 months' time. Yep. India, thanks for the tour. Jasprit Bumrah, definitely the best bowler in the world. But Australia dominates the Border-Gavaskar Trophy. Some very happy chappies down under here. Thanks for the entertainment throughout the series, and we'll see the Aussie cricket team in about a month. Yep. In that time, we'll see the NFL playoffs. We'll know what the Super Bowl is in 3 weeks, which is crazy to think of. And it's about 5 weeks until the Super Bowl itself, and then we'll start talking some Aussie footy. Yep. So the boys will be wrapping up their holidays back into pre-season in both the league and the NRL. We'll have a good look at that come February. That's for sure.
Yeah, just don't urinate in public.
I have on occasion.
Yeah, a West Coast guy got arrested for public urination. So he's, yeah.
If that's the worst thing that happens in the off season, let's go.
Well, we'll take that. We'll take that one. Anyway.
This is On The Esky. It's an Aussie sports podcast. We like our Aussie sport. We like our US sport. Check us out on social medias. Hit that subscribe button if you're here for the first time. We'll catch you in a couple of weeks.
Goodbye.